Hello and welcome. We're going to have a fantastic episode. You're going to love it. We're going to be talking about found family. Found family is so important. Like, you get assigned a starter family when you're born, in theory. But, like, is that the best fit for you? I think for most people, maybe. But guess what? You can, like, upgrade. You can, like, go out and headhunt for the ideal people to be part of your family and build those relationships. And it's awesome and it feels magical and wonderful. And yes, you can still keep your starter family if you want. I have obviously kept one. So, you cherry pick. So I am very excited about today's episode. And to help me, we have a fantastic panel. It's going to be super great. And there's Kat, with her new glass cane because she's prematurely 80. And then you've got Tom, truly someone else who absolutely knows about found family while still, maybe kind of sort of keeping your original starter family. We've got Megan, who...
Oh, what did I do?
Megan, you took glory away.
Glory
you lost.
You're so magnanimous. Your powers are so strong. The glory has been silenced trying to speak them. The man doesn't want people to know about the brilliant feminist author, Megan McCarthy, who's going to take over the world with her brilliance.
We are part of her found family.
Yes.
I really feel like
she took self-care.
She is working on getting
back. Bad for me.
Exactly.
This is the man trying to take us down. I feel it.
Oh, she got entirely kicked out of StreamYard.
Oh, no.
StreamYard has been weird lately.
Yeah.
We're talking about that a little bit in the lead coming into this. I am very excited for today's episode because found family is one of my favorite things to talk about. And Glory's back.
The Kremlins are real. Where was I? Megan, Charlie also, and Charlie's spouse, the Chaos Demon, who definitely have some personal experiences about found family, a couple decades worth as well.
The Chaos Demon is currently dancing around the house with his earbuds in. So if I randomly mute, it's because he started singing. And I don't want to get a DMCA strike because they've been weird. I know you'll try not to.
Doesn't mean you'll succeed.
The funny thing is I didn't hear anything to you so that I can't hear anything. And I heard. I'm like, wait, hey, since I'm being talked about.
I just want to say I love the dragon.
Yes, isn't it adorable?
It was requested by
cute little sweater on.
You know how he loves dragons.
That's great.
Yeah. He was like, we have a dragon. Sometimes we're like, we got 2 more episodes to do, so I will try to fit one in. Yeah. Of course he needs a scarf, though. It is winter.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It's S wording here.
Yes.
Oh.
If you say the word, it makes it worse.
We might get 7 inches of snow tomorrow.
Wow.
Like we're right on the line, and the line is really terrifying between. So we're either going to get 1 inch or 7. Like it doesn't grade out because there's going to be a warm front, and depending on where that warm front goes, everything north of that is going to be snow. And they're just like, it's going to be somewhere near you.
We've got a wind advisory right now, but it's 57 degrees outside. I do see that we have 99% chance of precipitation tomorrow. And 4/5 of an inch. But
Michigan,
it looks like it's definitely going to be rain. So none of the frosty stuff for us.
Yeah, the snow line I think is going to be as far south as Little Rock, from what I've seen. And then Nightmare Sky Kaiju weather south of that.
You know, Little Rock deserves it.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on my feelings about Little Rock. Or Arkansas in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that seems fair.
Arkansas is the state where we got into a car accident sitting in a parked car. Because
yeah, that sounds bad.
Driving.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, it's 54 degrees here right now. We're going to get rain tomorrow, but it's actually going to warm up like 8 degrees. We'll get warm rain. I imagine it's going to be quite a hellacious place wherever the warm front coming up from the Gulf that we're getting will interact with the cold front that y'all are getting. So somewhere around Arkansas, I assume.
Oh, yeah.
Arkansas or Tennessee, both of them, frankly, have it coming.
Arkansas and Louisiana, Baton Rouge is supposed to get it really bad.
So, found family, a thing.
Learning from your mistakes with your starter family.
Right? Like, I feel like starter families are there to like really clear up for you what you want and what you don't want in found family.
I know parent groups would be outraged if it was actually taught in schools, but I feel like the concept of found family needs to be taught in school. Because my family situation has been sketchy. Let's be very kind, polite, and gracious to everyone involved. Has been sketchy my entire life. And it wasn't until really high school where I was introduced to the idea of you can have family type relationships with people that you are not related to by blood.
Hey, hi, Steph. I think that's why that book is so popular in middle schools and high schools. What is it? The one, with like the 4 or 5 young men. Rob Lowe was in the movie.
The Outsiders?
That's Outsiders? I think The Outsiders, I think that's one of the reasons why The Outsiders is a perennial favorite with young people. Is not that
we all were also forced to read it. I mean, I enjoyed it, but we were still like, it was part of our curriculum.
It was one of those forbidden banned books when I was growing up in Mississippi.
Actually, my school has a habit of having us read banned books. They're like, here, have fun. We're like, cool.
You go, Michigan.
I mean, if it's banned, it's probably for a good reason that, we need you to know about.
My mother got me to read a lot of books. And that's also how the head librarian at the Oxford Public Library got me to read so many books it's banned in Iowa. This is banned in New York City. And I was like, oh, really? All right, check it out for me. Seriously, I was heavily manipulated in middle school and high school by librarians of it's banned here, banned in Sri Lanka. All right, put it on my account. Check it out to me and I'll pick it up on my way out today. Like, they literally could get me to check out any book if they told me where it was banned. And preferably what it was banned for. So I'd know what to look out for in the salacious bits.
And see, my family is the same way. Like, half my family are great people and fun people and wonderful people and nice, kind, and loving people. And then there are the others.
No, all of our family is Looney Tunes. I used to joke about our family as a tin full of nuts. And that's what I used to call them. Like, Mom will be like, "Oh, I got a call from Uncle Mark," and I'm like, "Oh, how is that your side of the Nuts family?" And then when Dad would say, "Oh, my mother called," and I'm like, "How is Grandma Marty and all the Nuts over there?" And it's just because that's the one thing my parents had in common. They both came from Looney Tunes, people. The whole extended family. I'm not just coming for my blood relations. If you have ever had dalliances with any member of my extended family, if you've ever married in, you're not right in the head. It's just that obvious. CB, there's UK is very well known for banning books. Like, it was law to ban any book for children that had any homosexuals in it. And actually, up until I think the early 90s, it was illegal to allow a child to read or check out any book that had strong female characters. Yep. So, no, the United Kingdom has plenty of banned books. They're just much more successful at banning them. That's why you don't even know they exist.
UK is very good at the propaganda.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They've had centuries to work on it.
By the way, part of the reason Gloria just started referring to all her relatives as being, various types of nuts was around the same time, thanks to the power of commercials you couldn't skip way back in the Win time. We saw the the trailers come out for the movie called Mixed Nuts about this very type of situation. And we just latched on of, oh, wait, that feels familiar just from that trailer.
Yep.
Because they're like, no, you can't rent that movie later on. Nope.
Yeah, nope. I think Holly Hunter is in it.
Yeah. I think that was R-rated, and that was their excuse.
Yeah. Guess what? The public library does not prevent children from checking out VHS that are R-rated. So guess who still got it?
And we were left with, what was this R-rated for? Strong language. That's right. They had enough cursing to get an R rating and just mature subject.
It wasn't even that much cursing. It was disappointing.
Yeah. I don't even think
Mom and Dad hated that
in that movie.
You don't what?
I don't even think it was like a YouTube demonetization level of cursing.
No, it really wasn't.
And YouTube has the bar set really low for demonetization now.
If, God, it's been a long time. It's been over a decade since I've last watched the movie. But there is a scene, I think, where Steve Martin's character drops the F-bomb 3 times in short succession. Like, you know how you feel. And I think that was enough to get them R-rated.
It was back in the day.
Yeah, it was 94, 95, something like that, maybe 96.
92, 93.
I don't know.
So 30 years ago.
Yeah.
It was the previous century.
Oh, Megan showing up with the violence already.
It was the previous century. I should not have to remember things around the bend.
The odometer's rolled over.
Just a 20-year cap, huh?
Yep. So anyway, Tom, do you have a pitch for this episode?
So last night, I was watching a few episodes of the Disney cartoon series Recess.
Mm-hmm.
And besides the
re-realization, who doesn't love Hogan's Heroes for children?
Exactly. If you ever if as a writer, you ever worry about anyone noticing that you are just ripping stuff off, don't worry, they won't, because I keep re-realizing it's just Hogan's Heroes, like a real direct ripoff of Hogan's Heroes for children. Mm-hmm. But they had an episode that I watched about best friends, and the entire group breaks up over the fact of who is TJ, the main character's best friend, and he won't say.
I remember that episode.
And there's anarchy. And I feel like what that episode's entire meaning was about was, like Glory says, there is a tier of best friend. There is no singular best friend. And what it was also trying to get at is these friends of his, these are his found family. These are, they are all like family for him.
Yeah,
How
these
can
are
you
his
say
ride or
one?
dies.
Yeah, how can you say one is better than the other? Real friends, real family. There is no pyramid scheme of who is ranked over who, unless you lived in one of those really effed up families.
I was just gonna say, my mother used to have a favorite child.
Yeah, it's perfectly normal in families to have one person who you can really talk to about certain things, because they're much more comfortable with it, and they particularly are happy to talk about that subject, or at least they're comfortable with maybe a dicey subject. But then have someone else in the family who you could talk about of other important things, like I don't know, World War II, whatever. Come on, there's always one World War II buff in any extended family. Minimum.
If you are a man above 30, you have to make a decision about which of the 3 courses you will take. As I have learned, and this is true, you have to choose. It's World War II, it's Civil War, or it's meats. The barbecuing and smoking of meats. That's your choices.
And if you're a non-binary AMAB person, you can just pick Star Wars like I did, and you're like, it's technically a war. Shut up.
What are you?
It is a civil war.
It is a civil war.
It is technically a civil war. Leave me alone. I just picked the Star Wars.
And I love when people, talk about the Empire, and it's right there. Lucas's response is right there with what's his name, Joss Whedon of. You do know it's a direct analogy for America, right? You do know who you're idolizing, right?
Oh, I do love breaking conservatives over George Lucas, because since Kathleen Kennedy is a woman, George Lucas has been recanonized as a saint because is man. And I'm like, but you do realize that the rebels were modeled after the Viet Cong, and he's very clear about this. Like, it was a Vietnam War analogy to him. America were the bad guys and the Viet Cong were the heroes. You realize that, right? And then they look it up and they're all conflicted because man said thing they don't like, and is woman good? Wait, no. My reality.
In the end, there's a lot of bad people. Anyone looking for power? I came across a recent video. Sorry for the thing real quick, but it's on YouTube, and it's just like 15 minutes or 20 minutes maybe at most. And he's like, where is my space laser? And he does this great video of the concept of space laser for the last 100 years, and how it shows no, there is no such thing as a more powerful weapon that will cause peace. All weapons just encourage more war.
Yep.
Because somebody always wants more power and more stuff.
Greed is a hell of a drug.
Because I know that I am an anarchist at heart, and I get myself in trouble a lot because of that. But to me, found families generally come about when your family itself is an unjust hierarchy. When it is either the parents are either over domineering, negligent, or they are somehow in a power imbalance with the children. And that trickles down into the siblings and cousins and everybody else into the family, to the point where the family has literally, and not like Maury Povich style, become dysfunctional. Like, it is not functioning. It is not a support system anymore. It is not there to actually help people grow into decent, good human beings. It is not there to make sure that if something bad happens, people are taken care of. All of the things that we get from actual family, those actual supports that lift us up and keep us moving forward, And once these really Ayn Randian concepts of family start coming in, where everyone is subservient to the male, and no one has to show honor to each other. And I really do blame it on her, because she brought it so much into the mainstream, this idea that no, there's no honor amongst thieves. Everyone's a thief. And you should be proud to be that backstabbing thief. Because all of her heroes break their word all the time. They lie. And you're supposed to love them for this. Like these are their heroic virtues. And when you see that happening in a family, you can't get the things that you need. Because we all need, whether we want to admit it or not, a basic level of support and care, somebody who will just listen to our problems and not preach over us, someone that will just support us no matter what we're going through. And when we can't find that with the people that we're born with, we are forced to rummage around and find it wherever we can. And that's where most of us end up getting to a found family.
Another thing I was surprised, but surprisingly is pertinent. I was listening to a podcast from BBC's Crowd Science, and they were talking about the state of, what do you call it? Mental disorder treatment in African nations. And so they went to Africa. They had a panel of several experts, and they had a decent discussion with the crowd. And it was really interesting. And one that I was surprised to come across that is actually spreading to the Western world, like I know at least it's in Canada, and it may also be in New York, is the concept of friendship benches. And one of the things they noted about African nations and countries and cultures still have, that you don't see as much in Western, is they still have family structures. They still have this trust of each other. And how can we use this to help when we're in mental distress? And it's not always easy to find someone in family to go talk to. So they started training people, namely grannies, often literal grannies, of how to do cognitive behavioral therapy with people. And they are called friendship benches. And it's where people can go talk, and they also provide them with, here's the resources for where you can direct them to actually get, if they need more fuller treatment, or if they, here's also to where you can direct them to. But your family's supposed to be that support structure that when you don't know what to do in your life, is there to bring about experience and wisdom and give you direction. And if they are not there to give you that direction and wisdom of experience, then you need to go out and find others who will. And that's really what found family is about, is that support we all need. Humans do not exist in a bubble. We cannot exist on our own. That is why we have society. If you want to exist on your own, go try living in the woods on your own without anyone coming near and without buying anything. That is what it is to truly live on your own. Otherwise, you are benefiting from society, and you have to learn how to interact with society. And that is where we also build these support structures, because we need help. One person is not strong enough.
And shouldn't be expected to be.
Yeah. And those who say, oh, I am strong enough, it's like, what happens when you get sick? What happens when you get really sick? Are you strong enough to support yourself when you are really ill? Or is that just your way of going, I'm tired of being here, let's end? Peace out.
The first found family that I remember that I ever had was an older lady who lived upstairs from us in the apartment building that we lived in. I can't remember how old she actually was, but her grandchildren were my age. And I would go up there and just hang out with her, because I didn't understand at the time. She would listen to all of my problems without commentary. I would listen to her stories, so there was this mutual aid there. She wanted somebody to talk to, and she was there to just listen, and she was there to help, and we learned to cook together. She taught me a lot of things, a lot of her favorite family dishes, but she was just there, and we were there for each other. And we have become so outcome oriented as a society that I don't think we understand just that basic blessing of having someone who's just there for us. Like, not getting something out of it. It's not an exchange program where I give you this, I get this back. Just, I would have a bad day at school, and she would just listen to all of my middle school drama, which, let's face it, middle school drama is middle school drama. There's nothing actually serious going on in most of these stories. But at the time, because you don't know any better, and these are some of the first experiences with this kind of drama, it feels like the end of the world. Everything is so... And she would just calmly listen, and we would be making dinner together, and she would just listen. And every now and then she would tell a story about herself or her late husband or her daughter. And I would learn from that experience, oh, maybe I could take it this way. Maybe I could do it this way. But I wasn't up there going, hey, lady, I will spend time with you if you fix my problems. And she will, you know what I'm saying? There wasn't this transactional relationship. We were just enjoyed spending time together, but both getting these huge benefits from it. She got to stay active and wasn't just sitting in front of her television all day watching TV. She was up and moving around and doing what she really wanted to do, was take care of someone, and I got a support figure that really helped me a lot in my life.
Welcome to the premise of that 90s show.
Yeah. But that was one of the first times that I started understanding that I needed other people in my life like that, because I wasn't getting that kind of listening at home. And it's not because I'm putting some kind of a moral failing on my own parents. We were going through a lot at the time. My dad was working 90-hour work weeks, so he was just not home. And we weren't making enough off of his salary because we were living in Maryland and everything was more expensive there. So mom was working too, everybody was busy. But you still need that support system in your life. And I wanted to bring that up just because I think a lot of people go to the idea of found family out of well, my family are just horrible. And at that point in my life, I wasn't having a lot of the blowback. I didn't understand that I was queer. So that whole thing hadn't started with my family. They really alienated me from a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, everyone was so busy. There wasn't time for those nurturing relationships that I needed as a child. And so sometimes it can just be that benign neglect that makes you need a family, a found family.
Yeah, I do like to bring up that point of found family is not a sign of, for lack of a better word, an evil starter family.
Mm-hmm.
It is simply a sign that the person looking for family needs more. That, the family they have is not able to provide for all their needs. And, depending on your situation, there's a lot of reasons for that. It's like so many things. This is not a morality call.
Yeah.
This is not a morality play, thing like they love to make this about. It's just a need. It's just if you are neurodivergent, you have different needs. And just because your family cannot provide for all of them, you need outside support, doesn't mean, oh, your family is awful and immoral and evil. It means they do not have the capacities. So like humans who can think, we're going to go find them outside this unit.
You can have a perfectly wonderful, supportive family and still go find yourself another Doctor Who fan. to gush over the latest season or whatever your fandom is. Because it just so happens that there is no other member of your family that is into this fandom that you love, and you want somebody to gush over and to take apart every single episode with. And by that, bond with somebody else about other things. Because most of the time when there's a fandom, there's also like moral things to discuss in the episodes and philosophical issues at hand. There's nothing wrong with your family. It's just nobody's watching that show but you, and you want somebody to really talk about it with, like, oh, can you believe they did this?
You ready for my attack on America? The truly liberal thought that just occurred to me.
You're terribly liberal. What?
The fantasy of this comes from the nuclear family.
Mm-hmm.
as truly a way mechanism to control the lower classes, because up until the recent industrial revolution, like the late 19th century on, and really it's the 20th century that the nuclear family was created, hence the name. We recognize that your spouse was not meant to be everything in your life. They were just supposed to be one small portion of it. That it was fine to have a spouse, friends, co-workers, people you associated with, and that you share different experiences with all of them.
Nuclear families are specifically a post-World War II invention. Well, at least that was when it was really pushed. That if you are a modern person, you just have a nuclear family.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the parents and the children and no one else. Maybe a pet. You can have one pet.
You only see the grandparents or uncles and aunts once a year. If that, maybe every 2 to 3 years.
And the nuclear family is another way to control the citizenry so that they feel loneliness and emptiness more and become better consumers, looking for modern conveniences to make up for the lack of people in their life to help carry the labor load as well as the emotional load.
Mm-hmm. And to rely more on the people in power and the companies they work for to tell them what is right and to be more subservient to them. No, seriously, like it's actually in the plan books.
Mm-hmm.
You can go do a Freedom of Information to find all this.
Yeah, and it's also, with most things that we have done historically, you can't undersell or oversell. Well, you can undersell easily. You can't oversell the impact of racism and capitalism on this movement. The immigrant families that were moving in were still traditional families. They were the grandparents, the parents, and the kids all living together.
As well as often aunts and uncles in there too.
Yeah. And that's not good for suburban sprawl. If you're going to sell houses and move people out into the suburbs and make this money, every one of these groups needs to have their own home. How else are you going to sell them all? So we make the houses a little bit smaller and tighter, so it's very uncomfortable to have grandma come live with you, or the aunts and uncles stay with you, or, well, we've got enough kids, it's time for you to move out so that we have room for the next batch of children, because we're feeding the machine. And that is not a natural state for humans to be in. We say it so often on here, like I feel like it just needs to have its own bumper that we can play instead of saying it, but like, we are a communal species. Like, we are a pack species. It's how we have developed, it's how we exist. And we need those other people around. Like, it
was, kind of fascinating and weird to see all the articles that came out in the mid to late 2000s about, oh, all of a sudden the 3-generation home is becoming the norm because of the economic downturn, the end of the world as we know it. When like this has been more of the default.
What you got, Kat?
No, I was about to be like, but the 2-gen is the whole new.
Yeah.
Like within the last 50 years, actually.
There's no memory.
70 years.
Yeah.
That's 2 generations. You know that, right?
Yes.
And even anthropology backs all this up, because we have skeletons that are 40,000 years old, 60,000 years old, where the people had injuries that should have outright killed them.
Mm-hmm.
Like massively broken bones in their legs and arms, where they
broken jaws.
Their jaws.
Broken
They
jaws.
could not have fed themselves. They could not have walked. Like a lion could have just walked by and went, "Oh, easy food." Nom nom nom.
Yep.
But they not only survived. We can see the healing in the bone, but they lived for years after this because someone took care of them.
Mm-hmm. Like 20 years took care of them. Not like a year or two, and then they die. They succumb to their injury. No, 20 years. That's successful caring.
Like, this is how our species got to be here. And it's one of those things that, I despise this obsession that society has gotten in their misunderstanding of evolution in constantly just talking about survival of the fittest. Fittest means most likely to survive. What made our species fit is we took care of each other in a way that our cousin species did not. We developed communities. We developed speech. We developed a much stronger ability to take care of ourselves. And that's what made us fit.
We figured out how to transmit information together.
Yeah.
And also even better, sort of have a larger group brain of all of our thoughts, like we have here.
In terms of evolution, fitness does not mean I'm the bulky, strong man that eats nothing but liver and steroids. Like, no, that's not what those words mean. Like, that's not what we're talking about here. Plus, we're also very clearly learning that there's such a huge coordination bonus that species get from evolution, that so much of us have co-evolved together, that there are a lot of species that would not exist if there wasn't this detailed relationship between each other. This kinship goes all the way down. And I think that when talking about things like found family, there are a lot of those, let's call them modern to postmodern folk, that like to think of themselves as cold, rational, like I'm only about the facts. The facts don't care about your feelings crowd.
Hi.
And they don't understand that these are actual facts. Like, this is how we exist as a species. Yeah, it might feel all warm and fuzzy to you to talk about emotions and feelings and support systems and networks. But the on-the-ground facts is this is how we have survived this long as a species.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to put it simply, like, CB actually has a good point. If we developed education.
Yeah.
Formal education.
Yeah,
and we can,
like animals.
Because I'm going to say education is just the process of teaching another one something else.
Animals teach each other things all the time.
Formal education.
But this is also where you see the success of certain species that should be struggling more than they are. Elephants are under a lot of pressure, but they are able to tell their children, go this way, go over here. Here's where the water is. Like you can see them teaching the youth the paths that you walk.
Wild boars will teach their young and other young and any other wild boars where to avoid. And they have done the test where they trap a wild boar, and like a young wild boar, and they see what the other wild boars do. And the other wild boars keep getting more and more help and they'll then if they get like, I think it's like up to 4 or 6 wild boars trying to help, and if that is not enough, they then start going to other species to help them until they have enough diversity that they can like together get the little trapped wild boar out of whatever trap the scientists have set up. And it is adorable and it's like heartbreaking, but I mean, the boar gets out every time because boars are really smart. But it's funny when the wild boars will go find the scientists to come help us get them out. And we'll like keep trying to see the thing, this wood is blocking, help move it. And then the scientist is like, all right, fine, I'll move it. And they're like, yay, bye-bye. And they'll do that little grunty thank you, because boars have a language. They have a rudimentary snorting, grunting language. And there is a word or a grunt, a specific kind of grunt for thank you. And it almost sounds like that, thank you. But it's like, they go off. But it's not just boars who've done this. They've done this with a bunch of different species, including ones that they did not think there was necessarily sentience. And most animals go get help. And that is where you hear these stories about various animals getting humans to help with a problem, like a bird who's stuck in some trash or something. Most animals on this planet and in the water have figured out, if you cannot solve your problem, keep getting more help. So there's enough help to solve the problem. This is what we do. And that, a lot of species, including bears, have learned, if you can't solve this problem, go get a human. They got thumbs. They got tools. They'll go help the baby. And that is what the vast majority of species have learned.
Some animals, like when a human child is in trouble, will also go get bigger humans.
Go get help. Yes. Yeah, there's a baby. There's a little kid crying.
This is a microhuman. It doesn't understand.
You know there's a baby crying? This is one of yours. Go get your baby.
Or like, even if the animal isn't one you would expect, like it's not a dog or a house cat or something. It's like just a random, like, there's something wrong with this. Hey, come over here.
Come look at this. Might be a hurt bird, something, anything.
I was going through Instagram, and I think it was Glory sent to Cats this little video of somebody's orange tabby of like keeps trying to give me the same quest, and it's going, and it's since it's actually a cat though. Leia just like kind of went, wait, what's going on? Who's in distress? I'm here to help.
Every time he showed me, he brought his phone in and played the reel again. And she went from la 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 to, we have to solve this problem. Like, heard the cat and was like, we have to solve it. It's like, what is the quest this cat keeps
comfort the phone. Like, was just like rubbing on the phone of like, we've got to stop this crying.
Yeah. Hello, Eva.
Hi, Eva.
And hello, Jen writes romance. I don't know that we said hello to you, but I see that you're writing while you listen to us. Lovely to have you.
But yeah, like you see, like there's so many benefits to increasing your social circle, even beyond the family you started with. And like everything, especially once I better understood what is really anarchy, because it is not without order. It is simply order that requires a need. That, there is times when the starter family you start with, they do not all work out. Some of them do. As we hear both from Charlie and CB, it's not all the family that didn't work out. It's just certain parts. They're just like, you know what? That is not worth the effort. That is causing too much of my own problems. We're going to have to put less energy there. Maybe avoid them now.
What was it Mom and Daddy say? You can love people from afar.
Mm-hmm.
And from afar. And I was like, from the curvature of the earth, you say? Yes, from that far.
From the other side of the earth.
Yes, you can love people from afar.
And honestly, this is the one place where tough love actually kind of works. When people see you getting the support that you need, sometimes they wake up. Like I have one cousin who was always so aloof and just the worst. Just the worst in every possible way. And we didn't like rudely like, we are not having anything to do with you anymore. Like there was no proclamation of like, we're cutting you off or anything. We just stopped reaching out. We just stopped participating in all of her drama. And she would float by every now and then and see what was going on with us. And over the years, she's been trying to find ways to plug back into the system that she sees on the side, and has been asking questions about how to set up a support system like that for herself. Because she realized that, yes, she was both part of the problem and suffering from the problem. And like I said, this wasn't like some grand scheme. Like we didn't walk up to her one day and we're like, you've been a real snitch about everything and we're just not having anything to do with you anymore. We just, just stopped engaging. Mm-hmm. Like it wasn't worth the energy and effort to engage. And eventually she noticed, wait, I'm getting no engagement. And then like would peek her head in and be like, oh, it looks like it's fun over there. What's going on over there? And that's not true for like all the cousins. Like that has not happened to all of them. But like this is how tough love actually works. Like we didn't have to be mean to her or rude to her, and now we have a doomsday radio going off.
Be careful. Hope it's a minor doomsday.
I was like, who's in a dorm room? Sounds like a dorm fire alarm.
They just put us under a winter storm warning.
Oh.
So it looks like you're going to get that.
So, yeah, I think we're going to be on the 7-inch side.
Yikes.
The wrong kind of 7 inches.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
I'm going to go start dinner.
Yeah.
Oh man, you scared Cat off.
Actually, I was going to say that anyway, but then that was the perfect time because
like this ace ain't having nothing to do with this nonsense.
But yeah, so I figure we'll take a break shortly, and when we come back, let's talk about. Well, usually the second hour is the red flags. Should we talk about red flags when we come back?
Yes, because there are fake found families out there. They're called cults.
I was also thinking of psychopaths as well.
Yeah.
Psychopaths/sociopaths.
That
you got to be careful of, because as a neurodivergent person, you're far more likely to attract sociopaths, psychopaths, and cults than even the normal neurotypical people. Because being different means you're not surrounded by as many people that would normally scare off those predator-like people and groups. So how to avoid and keep yourself safe. And then the third hour, we'll talk about how to actually get the good people. Like how it only took me in my 40s to finally find y'all. I have been looking my entire freaking life. I had to go through all the don'ts first.
You didn't follow the convention circuit far enough north. And I didn't follow it far enough south. Like, we got close to each other, but there were a couple conventions buffer between us.
Y'all are just on the wrong side of the United States for me.
It is true.
That one was just wrong timing.
Yeah, because technically you were there. You were just too young when we were in California. You were just a little too young, and we were a little too not into hanging out with high schoolers. It is a good thing. If you're in your late 20s, early 30s, and you're hanging out with high schoolers, you have bigger problems than just hanging out with high schoolers. So, yup. Anyhow, let us do a little breaky break. And when we come back, more of the same. Me bitty beep. Me bitty bibbity bibbity beep. Me bitty beep. Me bitty bibbity bibbity beep. Welcome back.
I'm in the middle of eating corn, so I will
It's
be silent. I know that song has been going through my head ever since I started cooking the corn. I was like, yeah, that's a good song.
coffee.
It's catchy.
And Tom checked on the smoker, on the smoky meats. How are they doing, Tom?
Just fine.
They luscious and smoky.
Yep.
Very nice.
And I had to go restart my computer, and hopefully it'll behave a little bit better.
Yeah, I hope so. Yep. I mean, we've all been having computer problems today of some nature or another. I mean, I got
Gremlins are real.
The gremlins are real.
Yeah,
So-
everyone. I'm getting like 5 frames a second.
Oh.
Guess it is StreamYard.
Check and make sure you're on the Wi-Fi.
Oh, I am. I've tried both of them and just... Who knows?
Hello, Jenna. Mercury shadows do what they do. Fair. That's fair. So, found family. How to avoid cults, psychopaths, and sociopaths. And other ne'er-do-wells.
This is where I feel like anarchy number 101 is important for everyone.
Mm.
If anyone is coming to you and saying, I am the only person that can save you, they are wanting your money or your life. If someone is saying, I am the only person that can help you, they're wanting your money or your life. If they're coming to you and saying, I am the only one that ever loved you, will ever love you, they want your life.
Mm-hmm.
What, as Tom was alluding to earlier, true anarchism is looking for unjustified hierarchies and saying, well, we don't need that in our lives anymore. Like, that can go away. And
well, we don't need that toxicity in this life.
And once
no,
you
I can't pronounce it.
Becoming very cognizant of when people are trying to put you in an unjust hierarchy, it is harder for people to take advantage of you. Because you start seeing those warning signs of, oh, you're trying to be the only one, the main one, the gatekeeper for everything else that's in my life. This isn't the only thing you should be looking for, but it is a good first signpost for a lot of these toxic relationships. Is they start isolating you from other people. They start trying to get you to subscribe to ideas that really make them into like the ultimate end all be all of all things, when nobody is. Like, this is the problem that I have with a lot of modern romance culture, is they're all mini cults.
Yes.
I should be your everything. No, you shouldn't. No one should be your everything. And, you know, I may have no room to say in here, but I am in the miracle gay marriage that has been around for almost heading. It's actually closer to 3 decades now. And no, we are not each other's everything, but we are each other's main support system. We know no matter what, we're there for each other, and have demonstrated that over and over and over again throughout the years. But I will never, as much as I enjoy cooking, I will never be able to discuss cooking at the level that Brian can with JP or any of the other chefs that we have working with us, because I am not a chef.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of even modern dating culture understands, oh no, he needs his chefy people in his life, just like I need my writer people. Like, he loves stories, but we'll never love them in the way that, like, when we get into deep trope talk, this is not his forte. This is not something he likes to do.
Or the mechanics of writing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, everyone else's eyes glaze over except writers. Like, when you start talking about the structure of some kind of short or novel, short story or novel or something, everyone else on the planet, with the one exception of fellow writers, everyone else's eyes glaze over and they go to their happy place and dissociate from their body. I've seen it too many times to not know what I'm looking at. And
even when I enjoy it, sometimes I accidentally disassociate, and I'm like, wait a minute, there was a whole conversation. I'm pretty sure I responded.
But, like, that's one of the ways down here in South Mississippi that I help identify writers. Is I'll just be in a conversation with a group of people, and I'll mention something that I'm currently working on, like, oh yeah, I'm really struggling with how to figure out like the structure of where to put the joke in after this like tragic moment. Everyone else's eyes glaze over except writers, and even people who don't know they're writers. They don't glaze over. They're like, well, how do you determine it? Like, and that's how I know. You a storyteller. You just don't know it yet. Stick around. I'll eventually get you published. So, not like I'll get, but I'll support you to get published eventually. So, it's just one of those things of we all need people who are into our particular interests as well as our main support.
Yeah, like Spence's.
Me saying to Noah, what do you think of the story? How could I make it better? Noah saying in a mild panic, I don't know. It's nice.
I mean, oddly, what I was reminded of as everyone was talking about all this, and Gloria can probably do it better, explaining it, is, so I don't remember any of it other than when you look at child development in psychology, we notice that there's 4 types of parenting-child interaction. If like you're at a play place, you'll see one of 4 types of child-parent behavior. And fortunately, there's only one correct one. The other 3 are all problematic and will lead to bigger problems later. Because the good behavior you want to see with a child and a parent is the child will periodically look to the parent and check if this behavior is okay. They essentially will use their parent as a touchstone of wisdom of, is this good or is this, and that's it. The parent doesn't need to say anything. The child's just periodically checking and then just the back to their thing.
The child wants occasional eye contact with a parent. And in that eye contact, it's supportive. Like, yeah, you're having a good time. I'm right here. And that is like, while the parent doesn't necessarily say that out loud, that is like a universal, most people would recognize the eye contact between the child and parent is where the child is, hello? And the parent is, yes, I'm here. You're having a good time. I'm still here. And then the child goes back to playing. So that is the emotionally supportive, well-adjusted relationship right there.
And that is what you'll even see among peers and adults when you have found family. That's the non-red flag, that's a green flag relationship where, yeah, you periodically check in with your friends. But if you don't see them, it's okay. If you don't hear from them for a little bit, it's fine too. But you just check in, you visit. The red flag ones are where if you don't talk to them every day, there's panic on at least one side. Or what you see with these, the other 3 types of, I think it's something attachment.
It's emotional attachments. So there's the kid who clings to the parent's legs or won't get out from behind the parent. They'll watch the other children playing, but they will not venture away. They will not venture away from being able to physically touch the parent. And it's because they are insecure emotional attachment. I
I just didn't like the other kids.
I mean,
I
that's
just didn't-
valid.
They were gross.
I mean,
Children are
Nope.
gross.
nobody wants to play with booger eaters. I'm saying it. Like, it's gross. Okay? Like, when you see that kid because they pull something out of the back of their pants, like, and it was not a pocket. And why are you using your underwear as storage? It's not okay. Yes,
Gotcha.
avoidant, anxious. The child who ignores the parent's
Rugrats?
assistance,
Yeah.
who tries to go off with other children as they get into that car. It's not a good sign. And there are definite limits to your willingness to tolerate your ADHD friends forgetting you exist because you're not in the room with them. So it's just something to be aware of like friends shouldn't need you to constantly keep in contact in order to exist, in order for you to be friends. If you don't talk to someone for 4 days, it does not mean you're no longer friends. And so if we're talking about adult relationships, they're like, oh, well, I hadn't heard from you in a week. So I figured you were dead to me. And that's why I unfriended you on Facebook. It's like, move on with your life. This person is definitely way too much trouble. Hello.
People I haven't talked to in 2 years. I'm like, hey.
I
I have a friend I haven't spoken to in years. I've only liked their posts on Facebook to know that we still exist.
I mean, like, yeah, we totally, Gloria and I both do that with Zara.
I think we confuse proximity with closeness. Like if you're not showing, like literally showing up, we're not close. And like I have friends that I have been really close friends with for decades now, like a cat's life, like a full-on cat's life.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk sometimes, depending on how busy our lives are, maybe once or twice a year because life is busy and there's a lot going on. But that friendship remains through the whole thing. And as soon as we start talking to each other, it's just that instant reconnection. We're right back where we left off and just move forward because we understand our lives are busy. There's a lot of things going on. And having that grace for people is really important. That and we're all ADHD people and have a hard time remembering that the universe exists. But, having that grace with people is very, very important. I've had a few friends that are, well, people that thought that they were my friend. I thought were my friends that were that kind of freaking out because you haven't talked to me in a week. Are you mad at me? And it's like, okay, we need to sit you down and find out what kinds of anxieties you have going on in your head and how we can fix them. Because I had a busy work week. That has nothing to do with you. Why do you think that my busy work week has something to do with your character? Because we need to unpack that because that's going to hurt all your relationships, sweetie. And the people that listen are okay. The people that are like, oh, yeah, maybe there is something going on here and try to work on it. But if they're like, no, you owe me, out. Goodbye. Don't have time for this. Because while a lot of life likes to try to mimic middle school, you graduate from middle school and you have to move on at some point.
It's gotten to the point where I could tell with the people at what point did you have your first childhood trauma, because that is where you are emotionally stuck. I've had people who need to be in contact every day, and no matter what I talk to them about, just will not stop doing this. Where it's like, look, I don't carry my phone with me everywhere, even around my house. I'm not going to be able to constantly reassure you. Also, I'm not going to be that person. I'm not that great with constantly emotionally reassuring people. because I get distracted so easy. Like y'all, I live in South Mississippi. There are squirrels everywhere, literal and figurative. I'm just not gonna be able to constantly reassure a human being. And also, I feel like if you need more reassurance than a toddler, there's signs. That's a flag right there. Like, I'm pretty good at taking care of toddlers, but that's like kind of my limit. Infants actually need less reassurance than toddlers. And like that is what I have been like. Humans in my family for the last 1,000 years have evolved to pretty much be able to take care of little ones. That's it. If you need more work than that, I'm not your person. And it's one of those of, I don't know what you can do, but you should definitely talk to a doctor about medication or therapy or both, preferably.
Well, one of the things that Gloria is bringing up here that is very important to this conversation is people in your lives should respect your boundaries and respect you and your time. If they are not respectful of your boundaries, if they are not respectful of you and your time, those are some serious red flag moments. Because, like, I am, I don't know how to put this. It is very easy for me to let people take advantage of me because I like to be helpful. I like to be of service. And I have to constantly check in with other people of, am I being unreasonable in my expectation of them understanding that I'm doing this for free for them? Or are they being unreasonable in what they're expecting from a free, I have some extra time, sure, I'll do that for you. Because learning who is there to take advantage of the services that you provide and who is there for you is a vital life skill. Because
even among my best friends, like that whole tier of people who have been emotionally supportive for literally decades, we make appointments with each other to chat. And even then, it's like after the first 20 to 30 minutes of chat, it's like one of us will say to the other, well, now that I've had proof of life from you, I'm good. I just need to be sure you were definitely alive. What do you want to talk about? Or do you have to go? Yeah, that's it. Of just, hey, I need to just make sure you're okay. And now that I feel better that you are alive and coherent, do you need to go or should we chat longer? You know, like, that is such a treasure to have. But again, these are people I've known for literally decades. Our friendship is old enough to rent cars. And we still make appointments with each other just to like have a conversation because our lives are that busy. But also we don't want to have a hurried conversation with each other. We want to have a real meaningful conversation.
And also knowing how your friends work. Like I have one friend who's like really, really special to me, but she has very strong phone anxiety. And I'm not talking about Megan. Well, you've been open about this. I want to make people think I'm not subtweeting you.
Yeah.
And so I know if I see my phone ring and it's her, not to answer it. She has something she needs to talk about, get off her chest. And she's going to leave me a voicemail that I will then listen to and then respond in text. Because she can deal with that text relationship. Being on the phone, if I were to pick it up, would add to her anxiety. But it's so much, and she needs to express the emotion and everything. So she needs to say it. So she will call, leave a voicemail, and then I listen to it and then respond in text because that's how she deals best with this. I'm not adding to her anxiety. I'm actually helping to reduce it. And learning those quirks about your friends and also respecting those quirks about your friends is so vitally important in what shows you a healthy relationship. Like it wouldn't do her any good if I'd be like, no, honey, you need to have a full counseling session. I need to talk to you on the phone. Like, let me call you, because all I just said is, hi, your anxiety isn't high enough. May I please crank it up a little bit more so I can feel better about myself in trying to alleviate your suffering?
I mean, what you also just described there is signs your friend is neurodivergent.
Oh,
One
yeah.
of the bonuses, and let's be honest, privileges neurotypicals get is that if you grow up neurodivergent, you very quickly realize you do not have this privilege. Is whatever you write in text, your emotions are understood because they will interpret it the same way. If you're a neurodivergent, you learn very quick that unless you are speaking face to face with full nonverbal emotional communication, there is a high chance your words will be misunderstood. As a sign, you're neurodivergent. And it's just a common experience we have. And it's why we tend to over-explain, is because it's so easy to be misunderstood, because the way you see the world is just different. And real friends understand that you communicate the way you need to make sure you're understood, and then they will communicate the way they need to make sure they understood you right. Including, like, I do sometimes, to make sure Glory knows this time at least I am not being passive aggressive. I will send her notifications to remind her to do things, but with like a qualifier of ADHD reminder.
Yeah.
Do this, which essentially means I'm not sure if you're going to remember, or if your ADHD will forget. So I'm sending this as just a CYA. Do at your leisure.
I feel like people misunderstand me a lot, Eva. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I'm so used to being misunderstood that I just doubt constantly whether or not I'm coming across with what I'm saying, which is why all of my explanations are so friggin' long-winded.
So I don't know why I do this, but in my head, I have like a mini version of every person when they send me a message, and I just relate it in different ways in which they could have sent this, and I'm like, that one! That's the one we're going to go with, and that's how I'm going to respond. So just imagine in my head, I constantly have a bunch of little yous running around going, so this is what I said, and here's another way I've said it, because I've talked to you and I know the different tones a lot of times that you guys use, so I just apply them all before responding. So that's why it takes me so long to respond.
That's also why I sometimes have to give the lack of sarcasm warning. Like, I know I'm a 90s kid and everything I say sounds sarcastic, and 90% of the time, if you assume sarcasm, you're right.
Yeah.
But like, okay, I'm sorry, incoming sincerity warning. I actually mean this. But I've experienced so many different forms of people wanting to take advantage of the relationships that we had, be that a sexual relationship, an emotional relationship, a financial relationship, whatever. And the key to all of them is they always have this odd possessiveness over the relationship where, oh, you don't understand how good I am for you. Like the businesses, the companies I have worked for, and like I'm feeling this really strongly with Amazon right now because I'm pulling a lot of stuff out of Kindle Unlimited, and I'm getting some beautifully passive aggressive. Like, I just got an email from them about a bonus, and they're like, "You're gonna miss these when they're gone." Like, there was this little message at the end, and I'm just like,
"Oh,
I rarely got these, so no, I won't." Like, no, like, and that is an abusive relationship.
That is emotionally manipulative as could be.
And a lot of companies that I've worked with over the years, you can tell the good ones and the ones that I'm willing to continue to do work with, because they're just like, oh, okay, you're going? Okay, that's fine. Oh, you're back now? Okay, that's fine. They're not trying to manipulate me into thinking that my life will crumble if I'm not there. And that should be that way with any group that you are around. Like if they're like, you realize if you walk away, like if it gets all like soap opera at any point, like you hear the dramatic violins coming in and they're about to make this speech about how you just don't understand how bad your life is going to be if you walk away from it. Oh no, just walk away. Don't look back. Like burn that bridge on your way out. Just like set it on fire as you're leaving. Like, oh no, I want to make sure I don't accidentally wander back over here.
Every single person in my life who's ever told me you'll miss me when I'm gone, I have not missed for even one moment. Every single person, without fail. Like, how can like a whole group of people be 100% wrong? I do not miss anybody who like would rather leave than respect my boundaries, who would rather leave than be actually supportive and not passive aggressive every time we talk, who would rather leave than, and this is a real complaint I have had about several people that I have taken to them personally, individually, and just the two of us so that nobody feels publicly humiliated, and said, every time we get together, you tell me things that emotionally wreck me and I don't like it. And also you seem kind of happy when you say it. When you say something to me about, oh, what someone else said about me or how someone else might have interpreted this thing I said, you seem almost gleeful that you are telling me bad news. And I think you need to work on your face, but also the way you're telling me, because why are you just coming to tell me that people are thinking these things? And every time I go talk to them, everyone else denies that they were having those thoughts. So you're just emotionally manipulating me. And again, every one of them I've ever brought this up to would rather leave than address this problem in this relationship I had with them. I did not miss any of them then. I really did not miss them. Partly because they didn't even last that long in my life to be able to have a hole that, I couldn't immediately fill without them there. Now, the one who did say it to me one time was my mother. And I laughed in her face and said, why would I miss this? And, when she died, at first I thought I might miss parts of her. And then I found out that my siblings had inherited these quirks and that she really wasn't dead for me in that way. And that I was still having to deal with this crap about her that used to infuriate me because now my siblings were also doing it. So no, I still did not miss her. Not like that. My point just being, when people talk to you that way, of you're going to miss me when I'm gone, that is your flag of you probably definitely will not. Don't worry.
What I was also really reminded in this is another piece of psychology we learned about a decade ago, and that is the drama triangle. How do you have less drama in your life? And the answer is the person you need to get out of your life is not the one you think. The problem is not the one that you have arguments with. Often the real problem is the one who likes to act like the white knight,
stirring the pot,
and keeps stirring the pot.
Mm.
But they don't actually give you solutions.
Stirs.
Preach.
And
you're not caught into pot stirs. The one who keeps, they said this about you. Oh, they said this. Now, look, sometimes people just say some shit and they're blowing off steam. And quite honestly, some people are just like that. They don't really mean it. They're just literally blowing off steam. It's best, and they know it, so they do it away from you. Like, and yes, I have done it too, where I'm like, Tom, I just need to get this off my chest. You cannot repeat this to another soul. And if you do, I swear I will deny it to your face and call you a liar in front of everybody. He's like, okay, what you got? And I will just blow off steam. I don't really mean it, whatever I'm saying. I don't even really know what's coming out of my mouth until afterwards. But I don't begrudge anybody blowing off steam. Now, if you really mean it, I need to know. what you really mean about me.
But-
But also, I don't blow off steam publicly because you can hurt people's reputation that way. You have to be careful.
And so here's the difference between the drama creators and the people and your friends who want to actually solve problems. The ones who want to solve problems will totally say that with the other person there. Of like, you told this to me. Why are you saying, and then if they deny, like, why are you denying this? We were, with this situation, like they want to actually still have a conversation. But if that person keeps telling you, oh, other people are saying this, but they never want to be around when you talk to the other person or ever say any of that in front of the other person, that's who you know, that's a red flag. And that's someone who just likes to stir up drama. They are, for lack of a better recent reference point, they are someone who loves BeautyTube.
And yeah, I have pulled this where somebody's trying to do a triangle, where I wait till I'm in the same room with the other two people and say to the person the third party tattled on, hey, the tattler said you said this about me. Is that true? And why did you say it if it is true? And watch the triangle fall apart. Because either the tattler lied or the tattler told something that was in confidence they weren't supposed to repeat. Because tattletales are the real problem. That also, is a tattletale is somebody you need to be careful of, because people who frequently tattle, there's your best friend who's like, look, you need to know this, and I'm here to help you if you need to solve this problem, but preferably without a shovel. But I'm just saying I'm here, like that. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about somebody who frequently tattles to you or tattles about you. That is somebody who definitely has more than a little bit of sadistic personality traits, and you need to be really careful around them. Also, ironically, they tend to also be very religious. So I am just saying there is a strong correlation, the Venn diagram of people with sadistic personality traits and people who consider themselves very religious. Like, that's like a major overlay, just for the record. Let that be your little.
Also, like, did the person it's different, like, if the person tattling to you actually defended you to the other person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not a friend if you won't defend your friend.
Although sometimes tattletales will say they defended you when they did no such thing.
Yeah.
So again, tattletales can also be lying liars.
Yes. Like, there needs to be some, like, backup to this.
But note, though, there's the difference between tattlers only want to tell in privacy what they heard.
Yeah.
They never want to be in a confrontational situation where they have to back up what they said.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference of, stuff happens, or, including what Gloria said, blowing off steam. And the other person can fully go, yeah, I said that. I was having a bad day. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like, look, I will feel so ashamed if anybody finds out of something I said when I was blowing off steam, but I still know I'm the one who's responsible to apologize, because the truth is it still came out of my mouth.
There's so many people that don't understand the relationship that Brian and I have, because we are very open about our feelings with one another, because we learned very early on in our relationship, like, just be open, and we needle each other a lot, and it's just how we are. And it's so funny how often people will come to me being like, do you know what he says about you? Like, what? Oh yeah, he says this stuff to my face all the time. Yeah, we're working on that. Like, like, it's, don't. Why
it is the difference between teehee, guess what I heard about you, and hey, I feel this injustice was done. Here's what happened. What do you want to do? Which I have had some very good close friends go, I heard this. Oh, we about to go get a fight because I need to take off my earrings first. Like, oh, calm down. I am not about to throw hands. Okay, that's not my style. I would sooner ruin their credit. Anyway, like,
and like, CB has a good point of like, here's, can be the outcomes of why this is not good in any situation. Like, if you love your kids can recognize they're, just because they're younger doesn't mean they don't notice what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Parent, CB was like, my parents' divorce was very toxic, and they both used to put me in the middle. And I called them both out on it. My mother stopped. My father didn't. And that's why he's the ghost.
So Jen's talking about a coworker that share things with her. There was no need for her to share. And I have said to people of, why do you tell me this stuff when there's nothing I can do about it? Why? What are you hoping for me to get out of it? What? Are you worried I'm getting too close to them? Why are you telling me about somebody where I can't do anything directly about it? Usually that is enough to get them to stop. If it is not, that's where I start pulling back and do not get as close to them anymore. Because why are you saying things that make me sad when there's nothing I could do about it?
Yeah, I've had friends that, unload, and it's like, all right, are we here to problem solve it, or is this just you need to have, an emotional outlet? And it's like, I'll give everyone an emotional outlet once, twice, and then it's like, we've talked about this before. Are you doing anything to change this, or why are you still in this situation? And that has ruined a lot of friendships. When you start going, well, it's causing you so much stress, you have to tell me about it, but why don't you want to make any changes?
Because relationships are so bizarrely idealized as toxic in modern culture. Like there's this almost aspirational quality to the dysfunctional relationship, because in having drama, how can I say this? We have turned all of our life into content. And so drama is content. And I have had to stop engaging with certain younger people who did not understand. No, there's work life that you do online, and then there's real life, and I'm not here for your content online. Like I'm not here for the for that whole drama parade that you're trying to build a life off of. Because one, that's tiring. It's so tiring. But also, like, what is the point of this? Like, I'm wanting to build something that I will still be comfortable working at when I'm in my 70s, because I live in the United States and there's no safety program. And I doubt I will be able to save up enough for retirement. So I've tried to build something that I'm going to feel comfortable still doing when I'm in my 70s, sitting around having all of the drama.
Well, I mean, I look at it this way, and this is the explanation I've come up with for people of, I'm totally there for friends who like, was it Real Housewives as entertainment, and
who understand that's not real.
Yeah, and that this is stuff no one should ever do in real life. This is just for TV, but damn,
There's
is it
nothing
funny
real
to watch.
Other than the word real.
Yeah.
This is all scripted, outlined. They're improvising an outline that they were handed about how the drama is supposed to go. There's nothing honest or genuine going on.
But if you're watching Real Housewives and taking notes, no, this is not anything to make a friendship with. Like, no, I'm going to avoid you now. If you think Real Housewives or any of the reality shows are aspirational.
Oh.
Hence, what was it? The Chrisleys that are now going to jail?
Oh, yeah, they're in jail.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, no, this is not aspirational. Pawn Stars is not aspirational. Heck, as we have now learned 20 years after the fact, what was that on MTV? Where they redid the Cars?
Oh,
Hit My Ride?
My Ride.
Yeah. Not aspirational at all. Incredibly toxic and every bad thing you can say about a cult.
Mm-hmm.
of reality TV should never be aspirational. It should be stuff we avoid ever doing. If it starts to feel like a scene from a reality show, we need to stop right now and reassess.
Because a cult is an institution, any institution, whether it's your family, your friend group, a church group, or a business or a political party, that tells you that they are the only ones here that care about you. They're the only ones that can solve your problems, and they are the only source of information you can trust. When they cut you off like that from the outside world, you are their product. They're making something off of you, whether that's their own sadistic joy, whether that's money, whatever it is. And those are the people always to avoid.
Oh, yep. The living room, these babies are getting ahead of themselves. I'm so sorry, and yet congratulations on the crawler.
But yeah, like the red flags are kind of obvious once you learn them. It's just we don't tend to. Hollywood does not like to talk about what red flags actually look like.
Hollywood doesn't like to help people be functional.
Pretty much, if it's in a movie that's not functional, avoid it.
Yeah.
That's the real lesson about
But
Hollywood.
I mean, Charlie makes an excellent point. It's and put drama equals content. That is why, media like takes all this drama is because that's content, but that's not real life. Not real life.
That's not how you function in any group. There's going to be times where we just don't talk to each other for a while.
It doesn't mean anything other than we busy with life.
I mean, we do check back on the person of, proof of life. You still okay? Are we still okay? And then, like sometimes, you grow apart. You have lives that are just drastically different. I have friends that their lives are so different. I don't have that much in common, so we don't chat that much. But we still check up.
I remember going through really tough times and each time telling my friends, look, if you can't get in touch with me, because guess what? My life's so busy and so overwhelming that I often don't even check email, let alone my phone. And by the time I check my phone, it's the middle of the night. And this was so long ago. It was before Do Not Disturb was an option on most phones. And I was like, so by the time I see it in the middle of the night, it seems inappropriate to text you back then. But if you ever need to get in touch with me and you can't, contact Tom. Tom will always know where I am and be able to relay your message to me, whatever it is. And it was very interesting who was willing to go through Tom and who was not. So essentially, the people who were trying to make drama didn't want to go through Tom. And the people who genuinely cared about me and just wanted proof of life checks were happy to talk to Tom about, is she okay? What's going on? Is there anything we can do? And so on. Like, that was very enlightening for me, of people who just wish to play with my emotions and to mess with me don't want to go through Tom.
They don't want there to be witnesses.
Oh, no, they don't want anyone else to know of their shenanigans they're trying to pull on me. Versus people who genuinely care about me and just want what's best for me, they're happy to go through Tom. They just want to know I'm okay, or if I'm not, what, if anything, they can do.
And that's why I keep going back to these warning signs of people trying to isolate you. The truly, truly toxic people don't want you to have an actual support system. They don't want witnesses because they don't want to get caught. And so anytime you see people starting to wall you off and be like, no, we are the only ones. I am the only one. Only I can't. No.
And that is why autistic people, especially autistic adults, get so militant, really, when they hear about parents of autistic children who are preventing them from communicating, speaking, befriending other autistic people.
Mm-hmm.
They are
They
doing
get
this behavior.
real upset. Well, my child says they don't want to meet any other autistic children. Like, how would your child know? You don't know who you like and who you don't like. You are taking advantage of a child who's already been hurt by a lot of neurotypical children. And you are telling them that their feeling is accurate, that they don't want to meet any autistic kids. Excuse me, what? How will you know? Also, they don't have to meet autistic children. They can meet autistic adults. That's something my father used to do. He used to go, our father loved Burger King so freaking much. I don't know why, y'all. It was the 80s. He loved their breakfast sandwiches way back when they were good-ish. And there was a young man at the time who worked there. He was, back then, referred to as semi-mute. He was deaf, and he knew a little bit of speaking, but he was also autistic, so he didn't really talk much because, he'd been burned a lot by neurotypical people. Well, anyway, my father used to smile and say hi when the guy was sweeping around because Dad would stay late during the breakfast time at Burger King. And eventually, I think Dad would get newspapers, and one time the guy saw something on one of the newspapers. Dad loved USA Today way back in the day. And the kid asked, the guy was in his 20s, so I probably shouldn't say kid. But he asked if he could have the newspaper. Dad's like, oh, sure. And then when Dad came the next day, and their kid was doing the sweeping and the bussing, he was like, so what'd you think of the article? And the guy couldn't really talk. Like, he didn't have very good pronunciation technique. So he went in the back room and he came back with a pad of paper and he wrote out what he had to say. And that is how Dad and this young man started a relationship, started a conversation. Was essentially Dad asked, what are your interests, whatever. So, and this is how my father used to do it, was like, if Dad knew your interests and then he saw a newspaper article, he would clip it out and give it to you. There you go. And then in the hopes that you will read it, and then you and he could have a conversation about it.
My dad used to do that too, all the time.
This is the thing. So that is how the relationship started. Hello, Heather. So that led to eventually my father finding out that this young man had been diagnosed not only deaf, because my father was interested of like, the young man lives on his own and everything. He's like, oh, you're doing very well. That's wonderful. And, they end up talking about their backgrounds and everything. And my father had mentioned how he had nearly been institutionalized when he was a child. And his mother, due to her experiences with her brother when he was a teenager being institutionalized for depression, was very much against it, and that's how my father found out that this young man was also diagnosed with autism. Well, I had already been diagnosed at 6 years old as autistic. That's that whole story I've told you before. Yes, it is like dropping a meme in your inbox or dropping an article link in your inbox. And my father was like, my daughter was diagnosed as autistic. Would you mind one day, meeting her, not at work, but like, maybe we could come visit you and we could have like a little tea or something and she could chat with you. And because my father had asked, as a kid who grew up autistic, what is the one thing you wish you'd had? And he said, I wish I'd known other autistic kids or adults, because I was the only autistic person my family knew. They just did not know what to do with me. And I felt very othered. I felt not that my family didn't love me, but they didn't know what to do with me. And they didn't know what was normal and what wasn't normal for me. So my father's like, well, would you mind meeting my daughter? She's also autistic and maybe she would like that. So that led to every couple months me visiting his house with my father and Dad bringing, snacks and things after school. And we would hang out. And that essentially was me talking and then him writing out his stuff, his response, like text messaging, y'all. And it was so nice. And then Dad met a couple other people over the years who also were essentially adult men who had been diagnosed when they were youth as autistic. and Dad introducing me to each one, because every time when he asked, what is the one thing you wished you had known as an autistic young person? What do you wish you'd had? Every one of them was like, I wish I'd known anyone else who was autistic. So then I wouldn't have felt like the other F word.
Oh, and as Heather brings up, of like, it's also so good for parents to meet other parents.
I agree. Eventually, the young man brought his mother and his grandmother to the house for one of these little meet and greets where I would chat. Dad would read his newspaper or his Newsweek. And instead, Dad chatted with the young man, who I say young, but he was like in his early 20s, with his mother, and his grandmother came because they were like, who are these white people keeps coming over? And they talked caregiver talk of like, what is it like? And his mother was shocked and was in tears. She was so happy to find out that her son did not behave strangely. That's how all like I did too, like the whole getting dressed thing. It's not like I don't like wearing clothes. Y'all know, you've heard me before. I like wearing clothes. I don't like changing clothes. I have never liked it. It's cold in the house. It's cold. I don't like changing clothes. It's too much sensory. It's a sensory overload sometimes for me. And the way my parents wanted me to change clothes was all at once. And it's like, it's too much. I want to change clothes one piece at a time and then rest for a minute before I change the next item of clothing. And it turns out her son was the same way. So grandma would sit on him while his mother would pull his pants off and put on new pants. And this was when he was like 12. Because she's like, he's been wearing the same dirty pants for 3 days. What are people are going to say things? And also, you smell. And he's like, I know I smell, but I don't like to change my pants. So it was such a relief for her. She felt better. And she's like, thank you. I never known another parent with an autistic kid. This makes me feel so much better. So it's kind of strange how, as humans,
thought it was taboo to talk about or to acknowledge. So it's like, even if they did, they might not have known.
Right. Like because in Mississippi, it was something only poor people were diagnosed with, because for the longest time, autism was believed to be caused by maternal neglect. And that alone was grounds for removing parental rights in the state of Mississippi. Since I think the 50s or 60s. That's how it was. So it was also a diagnosis of shame for the parents.
Mm.
So it was only something diagnosed when they wanted to remove parental rights. It's all complicated. But yeah, it was kind of enlightening. It's to the point that like invariably Dad would end up chatting with the parents of these adult men, because also it was believed that it was only males who had this. Like, how is it maternal neglect but not female? Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. Bias is wild. But my point simply being, as humans, sometimes we try to avoid the thing we need the most. Whether we're caregivers or actual like people, like birds of a feather, but instead we do the opposite. We don't want to flock together. No, I don't want to be with people of my own kind. They're terrible. Are they terrible? Or you just haven't found the right people with the right fandom? Heather says, when my son started doing extracurricular activities, the best thing we could have done. Oh, yeah, I bet that was super fun.
I mean, like, I feel like that's the other part of the story that's often misinterpreted about the ugly duckling. Of he's similar. Well, I don't remember. The future swan is similar but different enough that it's hard for the other ducks to relate, and so they can't really tell what's working and what's not normal for him versus them. But once this the swan grows up and sees other swans and goes, hey, this is what I'm doing, they're like, yep, that's what we do too. It's like, oh, okay, this is not something to worry about, this works. Versus if something's not, then how do we do something differently so it does work as well? Like yes, one article of clothing at a time, or sometimes a few times when we were growing up, when we lived in luxury and the jobs were good, Mom or Dad would just toss our laundry into the dryer in the morning for about 5-10 minutes and then hand it to Glory and go like, now get dressed quick.
That's how my mom would get me to get dressed for school.
Yeah,
because I'm in my PJs. No.
Yeah. Or we had a radiator sometimes in a lot of these older homes. There'd be like a gas radiator.
Mhm.
And mom would drape my clothes over the radiator so they could warm up. This was before we had an electric dryer. And she would drape it, and it would she would drape them in order, opposite order of me putting them on. So my underwear would actually be in the middle, because like if you get dressed from the top down or from the bottom up, underwear's in the middle. And oh god, it was so much easier to get me to get dressed if my clothes were warm, because they're cold. It's too much sensory, especially first thing in the morning when you wake up. It's too much.
I have a weird relationship with wood smoke because my folks would put my clothes in front of the wood fire when I was a kid, because that's how we did the house. So my clothes always smelled. I smelled like wood smoke. I always smelled like wood smoke.
Yeah, I knew, and there was another girl in our neighborhood when I was in upper elementary, where I think she had ADHD, and her family had a wood burning fireplace, and her grandma would put her clothes on the hearth to warm up before she put it, because she also hated putting on cold clothes. It's just the worst punishment to put on ice cold clothes when you have to get out of your nice warm night clothes. But like, yeah, that there are ways around it. And again, that young man's mother was like, that never occurred to us to heat him up. And there was his grandma going, we should have put his clothes in the oven. We just didn't think about it. Like, on the lowest set, you know what I'm saying? Like, but they were overwhelmed caregivers, and they just didn't think about it. But if they'd had other parents to talk to where they also have neurodivergent children, maybe they could have like found solutions together.
And that is what real friends do, is that is a form of support. Of we all want lives that are enjoyable. And we do not like the feeling of hurting others, or at least
let alone our little ones.
Yeah. That's why we don't like to see anyone cry, especially our kids. At least you're not supposed to. And so, yeah, we work on but when you have a support group, you can ask them, especially when your brain's not functioning so well, like you are exhausted and tired from taking care of these kids, or just making a whole lot of milk. It's just taking up all the calories from the brain.
And this is one of the reasons why found family is so prevalent in the queer community. It's not just because so many of us get kicked out of our starter family, which does still happen, but because there are wrinkles in relationships that don't happen in mixed gender relationships. There are a lot of questions that a cis straight parent can't answer. There are a lot of situations that just, don't come up in...
Never happened to them.
Yeah. And having those people in your life that can be like, oh, here, let me explain, and be able to walk you through is so vitally important to just your health, sanity, and well-being, that, it really, it worried me for a little bit there, because I was seeing younger kids who did not understand how things tend to yo-yo back and forth, that rights very often exist on a pendulum, and they swing so that we have them, and then they swing and they try to take them away, and sometimes do. And they were like, I would get into arguments with them about how, well, we don't need these extra institutions anymore. We have, we don't need this other support group. And it's like, oh, sweet summer child, you have not seen winter yet.
Yeah.
Let me regale you with tales of the Ronald of Reagan and what future for you.
My favorite one is when you know the younger ones, the ones who are at least 2 decades younger, and they get worried, or they hear someone older than you or anyone talking about this stuff that's 30-40 years older than them. It's helpful because then you can look at them and go, all right, so let me tell you about the world they grew up in. And when they say they were pulled up by their own bootstraps, let me tell you the situations they had that you don't have access to. and they don't acknowledge this is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Hence, the whole what's his face, former Hercules,
Oh,
in complete denial about his own life and how much social support and governmental support he had, or he would have still be in the gutters. Quite literally, actually.
Yeah, we need that help and support from each other, and it's important to remember, especially if you're in any marginalized community. And unfortunately, that means almost everyone that is not a cisgender white male. Even though women are the majority, like sorry, that just gets me. But those support systems exist for a reason, and having these ways to reach out so that when you're sitting back going, there's a bill been introduced in our state legislature here and in a couple others that would make it a criminal act to properly gender someone.
Yep.
Support systems are important, y'all.
Yep.
All right. I think it's time for that break. And then we will come back. We will talk about all the fun ways to find family and build our communities.
It'll be grand.
How to make friends as adults.
I promise it's not going to make you cry too much. No, I'm kidding. It's very doable. And being neurodivergent actually helps in this case. For realsies. We will go over how and why. See you in a minute. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Me, 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 me. Welcome back.
Hello again.
Hello, hello. So, story time. When Kitty disappeared, and I kept leaving the side door open, Little Bit came in and was like, "Oh, you got some nice digs here," and started playing with Kitty's toys and everything. I had thought that Kitty and Little Bit were out adventuring together. This was not so. So when Kitty did come home, Little Bit was like, "I live here now," and Kitty was like, "No, that is not how this works." And I was like, "Little Bit, if you can't play nice, you got to go." So Little Bit left. Anyhow, fast forward a week, and Kitty is like, "I am so tired of that little bee," and I'm not using bit. Rhymes with witch. "I'm so tired of that little bee coming in here and eating my food and thinking she owns the place." And Kitty jumped out the window last night and disappeared for like 2 hours. And I was like, "Well, she's left before. She'll come back. She'll find her way back, right?" And then I heard cats fighting. I heard the, and I'm like, "Tom, it's the cats. Go open the door." And that was Kitty jumping back through the window because she finally found Little Bee to go, "Look here, this is my home. You better respect." And now this is Tom smoking meat today. Little Bit is hanging around, and there's Kitty like, "She better not come in here. I have educated her." Oh, the drama. So this is what we dealt with during the sprint. Was Kitty like hanging around the corner? "That little bee better not come in here."
They may have spent that time on Fiverr dreaming. I have ideas. What need money?
Mm.
Mm.
Mood. How'd everybody else's sprint go?
I ate my sausage gravy.
Yum.
Delicious. I was just checking on the flames for the smoker. It was a bit low. They were not heating up as fast. So hopefully that is now fixed.
Very nice.
So I accidentally dryered my chapstick.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Good news is I have more. But this is the second time I have done this. This month.
I have almost used all of it, and we'll soon probably have to reorder more of the lip balm from Maggie's Bee Collective. Is
Very
nice.
It's always nice when you find a good one.
Spence got a video of Tater giggling, and Laura is snuggling with Roy. Very nice.
My doggie has decided that snuggling is overrated. She's a big girl now.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
She'll change your mind a little bit.
Also, I am not Brian. This is the other.
Oh, that's the problem.
That's the real problem. You're not Brian.
Mm.
I am not that brand of chaos demon. No.
Dang right.
So we're going to talk about how do you find those friends.
Mine just show up.
If you grew up around a-holes, it may be more challenging and difficult for you. And the reason is because all you know is how to be an a-hole. And surprisingly, when somebody is already getting that a lot from the outside world, they don't necessarily want that in their friendships. So it is time to work on being more compassionate with others. A side effect of learning to be more loving, compassionate with others is that you inadvertently learn how to be more loving, compassionate with yourself. And a side effect of learning to be more loving, compassionate with yourself is you learn how to be more loving, compassionate with others. Because your brain cannot tell the difference between everyone else and you. It's a very rudimentary brain, y'all. So
I'm way better to other people.
I've had conversations about that. So the only thing I can tell you is the accidental meditation I stumbled across in my mid to late 20s, early 30s.
Is it the water?
It's the water one. I know it's a silly meditation. I thought it was silly at the time. It is silly. But it's just a meditation technique anyway to help you have better meditative focus. Because the brain works better when it has something to focus on versus when it has nothing to focus on. And that was originally why I did it was, oh, wow, this is not having to look at a flame because I couldn't do flames in my house, in my living room. Because at the time I had Andy, and Andy liked to smack fire. And I did not want to be on fire. I did not want my living room to be on fire. And I definitely didn't want a flaming cat. So that meditation where you stare at a flame would not work because every time I tried it, there would Andy come sneaking up like I can't see her to come smack it. I'm still salty about it. The cat has passed on, and I'm still salty about her doing this nonsense. But anyway, so that was why I had to find a different meditation. And that is where I found the meditation where you merely think about any body of water. You find a picture of a body of water you think is very pleasing to look at and really stare at that picture until you kind of memorize it. And then when you are meditating, you just remember the image of that body of water and you send love to it. You send the thought of love to it. That is it. That's literally the whole meditative practice. Here's the thing. The second level, once you can stay focused on imagining love for this body of water, sending all your love to this body of water. That practice, once you have this as a pretty good meditative focus technique, you then expand it out to you send out love to more bodies of water. Like you try something larger, like an ocean or a sea. And once you're pretty good at you just pick, it doesn't matter. You pick a body of water you like. You pick a bigger one. And you keep doing that. And once you get to big enough, it's you sending love out to all the water in all the world. And at some point, you will have to recognize that humans are filled with water too. And so if you're sending out love to all the water, you're also sending your love to all the water and people. And eventually, you'll come to a place of peace that means you too. You're sending out love to all the water in the world, including inside yourself. If sending love to a body of water is too much, you can just do it to a bottle of water. Turns out some people actually find a body of water to be too big to imagine. And so the advice is instead to imagine to get yourself like a cup of water. But I couldn't do a cup because, again, did I mention my a-hole cat? She also liked to she liked to stick her little paw in it, lick her little paw, stick it back. And when she was done, she'd knock over the cup because what a psycho. So I had to use a bottle of water with a lid so that even if she knocked it over, it's fine. And that was the advice, was if it's too much to imagine a whole body of water, try a bottle of water. Try a cup of water, something.
Okay. So my brain has now supplied that it's now love water, like how there's moon water.
It's not wrong.
Isn't that wrong?
And here's the weird part about human psychology and the way our brains work is if you then consume the love water, you will in general feel more love for both yourself and the rest of the world.
Yeah. John
That's
Michael
how brains
Greer,
work.
in
And
his
will
list,
inadvertently develop loving compassion for yourself and others through this meditative practice. It's a shortcut, y'all. It's just a shortcut. I found it by accident. Spread it to the world.
It's also why you do not eat sad food, because you will make yourself sad and you will dislike yourself more too.
You know it when it's sad. It looks sad. It looks like you can feel your gag reflex not want to swallow.
Pity casserole. It's not good casserole.
No. That's why they put tater tots on top of it, so it's all crispy and happy again. Tater tots make hot dish happy.
Hot damn, it's tater tots.
John Michael Greer, in his most recent book, in the chapter on ritual, makes what I think is such an important statement for people who are new to the subject, and that is, ritual is a performance art with an audience of one. You are the audience of the ritual that you are doing.
If you believe it's going to work, it's going to work.
And so you should do the things that make you happy. You should do the things that actually are of psychological benefit for you in any kind of ritual practice, whether that's meditation or what have you. Because if it's not something that actually makes you happy, you will not get any merit from it at all. Like it really will not help you out. And I just like how he just very matter-of-factly said, comes out and says that in there, because we can really easily wooify everything up. And even if you are somebody who does believe in some of the more woo-woo stuff, the psychology is there as well. Like, you don't need one to have the other. A lot of these things are very helpful psychologically, even without any external force acting. Brain is singing softly under his breath, and he thinks I can't hear it, and it's so funny.
Well, look, he also, and yet he thinks everyone can hear him when he's, softly talking anyway. So,
No.
The brain does what it does.
It does what it does. So that is merely my advice about, look, if you come from a-holes, if your family, your starter family breaks your heart a lot, or even only a few times, this is the behavior you've learned. It may be that's why you may be struggling to have lasting friendships, is because you are mimicking the behavior you grew up with. And
yeah,
people don't want that if they have a choice. So if you're struggling to develop found family, that may be a component, that you are mimicking the a-holes and the a-hole-ish behavior that you grew up with. It's something like, I know it's not, like, I would love to tell you there's nothing wrong with you, that the problem is the outside world, and you just have to find the right group. That's what other people used to tell me, and it didn't quite make sense. Of like, but that doesn't quite make sense, because let me tell you, both of my parents, passive-aggressive artisans.
Yes.
These two people could be so passive-aggressive, and that is all I knew. Even though I didn't know I was being passive-aggressive, I thought this was just how you interact with people. And so I did a lot of soul searching. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not a perfect person. I would not even know how to be, quite honestly. But I feel like there's always room for improvement on how I interact with the people, the relationships I value, because what I grew up with is not necessarily functional. Or else I would have been friends with my parents once I grew up, but instead, no. The best 4 months of my life in my 20s was the 4 months my mother stopped talking to me. It was wonderful, y'all. I had so much time. I went back to reading books. I had so much free time because the woman was not sucking all the life force and my time out of me.
I like how you phrased this before the break, that it's how to make friends as adults, because I think one of the things that we have gotten really wrong in our culture, and I talk about this a lot, is that we have confused being an adult with being somebody who doesn't play, who doesn't love, just foolishly things. And these are how you make friends. You make friends through games, through play, through playful interaction. And if you're not willing, or you believe that it is beneath you to be playful with other people, you're never going to be able to make those connections. Like, that's how our brain forges connections and says, oh, this person is safe, is through play. It's a low stakes engagement environment.
And the other part that is required to become friends, besides the part of playing, is the amount of time spent, which is why it's easy to make friends in school, because you see these people all the time. You will build up 100 hours near them in a week.
Mm-hmm.
But as an adult, it's a lot harder. So that's why, really, if you want to make friends, the first thing is to find a place you like to go to, whether that's the gym or a a bar, a restaurant, a maker space, a library, just any place where you see people that you like.
Comic book shops, well, they still exist.
I got a job at a library just from going twice a month to 2 different free events they had monthly.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's literally how I got a job. Was I used to go monthly to game night, and then I used to go monthly to their sort of barely qualifies as a book club. And it was only because it was a potluck book club. Everybody brought food. And frankly, I was there for the food. Truthfully. Honestly, game night also, because I normally, that back then, it wasn't game night, it was Scrabble night. And I normally do not willingly play Scrabble. It's not my favorite game. But there was food and there was hanging out with people. And I just needed to get out of the house and away from my mother, who I was taking care of. This was her last cancer. And I just needed a break from her once a month. And then they were like, we have this book club thing. And we do food. And I'm like, oh, well, yeah,
like that's
food.
But like, that's part of why you have people who hang out at coffee shops, or, there's so many community spaces on college campuses usually that you don't actually have to be a college kid to hang out.
Yeah, most college campuses are public.
Yeah, they're open. Yeah. They're open campus.
So, you can hang out there, but it's just a place you have to go consistently, or else how are they going to meet you or get to know you and allow things to develop?
So you find a place that is easy for you to get to on a weekly or monthly basis, like a bookstore, a game store, a library, a coffee shop, whatever. And usually most places will have various events, depending on what what kind of location, what kind of facility it is. They'll have various things that'll be open to the public. And then you try your best to rearrange your schedule to show up at the event. And yes, it's awkward. You don't know anybody. There's a way. You just hold your prop. It's usually a cup. Cups are great as a prop.
Mm-hmm.
Things do not have to be in your cup, but you know what? Ice helps. You don't have to drink anything out of it. You just can have ice. They don't know that, they'll be like, oh, do you need another refill? Like, oh, sure, I'll have a little. And you're just putting a splash of Sprite and moving on with your life because it's a prop. And you just slowly walk around. I'm thinking of certain white men here. Okay, so how to be less creepy would you do this? You've got to work on that smile in the mirror. Because let me tell you, a creepy smile is not going to help you. If
Preach.
you look like Kevin Spacey when you smile, it is a problem.
Yeah.
So you're walking around with your cup with maybe some ice in it, and you've worked on your smile, and it looks like an engaging smile. It's not too big of a smile. You've got 2 smiles a minimum. You're very happy. Oh, hello, I've seen you. And you have your just, hi, I'm just mingling. Hello, lovely. And you're just mingling around till you hear a conversation that you have an interest in.
I'm good.
I don't know, trains, social media, whatever. Probably best to avoid the teenage girls. If you are a straight white male, just that is advanced love. Just leave them alone. Just leave them alone.
For so many different reasons.
There's a variety
There's
of
so much
reasons.
drama of teenage girls.
Yeah, so just leave them alone. Move on. Move on.
They're advanced.
You might do well with moms, though, okay? Because they're mostly going to talk about like diapers and stuff, but you can say, hey, does anyone have any white wine recommendations? I'm looking for a decent Chardonnay. You know what? You may be not actually willing to drink Chardonnay, but it's a decent question to ask of moms. Some stereotypes are true.
What's up with the...
I know.
Chardonnay tastes like tears and sadness.
Oh, is that it? I know. I can't
They know the
say
flavor
Chardonnay.
well,
I
so they have
cannot
opinions.
stand Chardonnay. Like, give me an unoaked Chardonnay any day of the week, but an oaked one. But have I actually used the line when I'm seeing a whole bunch of moms and they're talking about diapers and teething, or they're talking about, kids going into kindergarten? I'll be like, hey, and they're like, hey, so, hi, I'm whatever, Jane. And I'm like, hi, I'm Glory. I know this question sounds like it's off the wall, but does anyone have any Chardonnay recommendations? Everybody talks about Chardonnay so well, and I haven't found one that works for me yet. Let me tell you, even when they'll say, oh, I'm not really into Chardonnay, I like Moscato. It's like, oh, I like Moscato too. Question done. Yeah, it is a problem if you look like Kevin Spacey, because if you are Kevin Spacey, it's a problem. So you just mill around until you get some names so that the next time you go to an event and you see the same person, be sure to remember their name. Just be that person who remembers people's names and says, hello, Jane. How are you doing? How's the teething going? Is it done yet? No? Oh, good luck. And you just keep milling around with your cup of ice, whatever. And like, people will start appreciating that you remember them because it's validation.
And look, I know people may be surprised to hear this one, but this is actually the good use and purpose of churches.
Yeah.
Is churches have, in general, cultivate a specific type of community and type of people who are going to be there. So you'll very quickly figure out at any church, is this the group I get along with? If you're not getting along with anyone there, yeah, go find another group. If you get along with 1 or 2 people there, you'll probably get along with most of them.
Mm-hmm.
It is one of the nice things about them. But but you got to find some place you can go to regularly, because even if you are an introvert and it is hard for you to approach other people, you still need to be somewhere where other people can approach you. This is also where previously we've talked about having doodads and things people can notice about you to talk about with you comes in handy. Like, I have so many people who just feel compelled at some point to either comment or ask a question when I wear my kilt around town.
He only owns 1 kilt. He doesn't wear it that often. Everybody remembers the kilt.
Mm-hmm. And I wear it for a few different reasons, but yeah, like it's a good, opener. Also, it makes you memorable, so they know they've seen you before.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where I know we've talked about not being a but this is one of those places where it's really important being willing to listen and not, well, actually, when a stranger is introducing themselves to you. If the first thing, it's improv. It's basic improv. When you're first meeting somebody, as long as it is safe and causes no one harm, yes, and as many of the things that you can to keep the conversation going. If you're the person that's like, they're like, oh, I love Chardonnay. And you're like, well, actually, and start going off on all the wine facts. There's a reason they're walking away from you.
Yeah.
You just said, I don't want to engage with what you're saying. I want to prove that I am superior in some way. That's how they're going to receive that, and they're going to walk away.
So, I can't help myself. That is what improv was literally created for.
You're welcome, Tom.
I love that fact of, yes, thanks for helping me learn
I was
improv.
the one who researched this. And was
Yeah, like the
"Wow,
actual
that's what I learned."
the origin of at least American improv was to help children of, immigrants learn how to socialize and develop friendships. That is its original purpose and development. They only later went, you could really learn to do some good comedy with this.
Right.
But the origin was, this is how you make friends. This is how you teach even kids to make friends.
So yes, try the yes and option.
Because once you bring a negative into something, you stop conversation.
Yes.
You now make this an argument. It is no longer just conversing. It is a debate.
And also, if you notice that you're just not having fun in any situation, notice how often people are yes-anding things. Because a lot of times the flow of the night gets interrupted because one or more people are just slapping down anything that you could be doing that's fun, any conversation that could be fun, any activity that could be fun. It's just gotten into a negative spiral, and you have to find a way to turn it around. And this is that improv thing. What can you get people to yes and?
I mean, that's actually what I've been surprisingly also enjoying with that 90s show is you're seeing, again, kids without many options learning how to have fun together and how to communicate of, this kind of what we liked about the original, that 70s show.
Yep.
Is these are beginners. And so you get to see beginners, try and fail and try again and succeed sometimes. And that's why it's a positive, uplifting show. And yes, Jenna, I totally agree. That's part of why Whose Line is so popular.
And this is where fandom can be really supportive in this. I have made some lifelong friends because of random fandom things. Like, some of them actually happened at conventions. Like, one of my best friends in the universe, I met her at a convention simply because her children were dressed as characters from ElfQuest. They came cosplaying as characters from ElfQuest. And I made an offhand remark to Brian, now that's good parenting, kids raised right. And she heard me and turned around and said, they wanted to dress like this. I had to make these costumes. And then we started talking and like, oh yeah, no, this is definitely parenting done right. Your kids read those comics, loved the stories, got into this world as much as you are. And like, it was this just offhand comment. I have met people randomly at bars who stopped because I wear a lot of fandom shirts that like wearing the things that I love on my chest that stop and like, oh, you like that too? And this is where you ask the question, am I willing to yes and? Do I want to have the conversation tonight? And if I do, you just get, it's a great conversation starter. Because not only do I have shirts that are just like the normal fandoms, but like my favorite shirt to wear out in public when I feel safe is my Transformer shirt, which is Optima Prime. Because people stop and go, oh, girl, we need to talk. Because most people just see, oh, you're wearing a robot shirt and walk on. But the few people that stop and like, oh, Transformers, and then stop and go, oh, Transformers. And I have made some really good friends from that. Because that is something that really does make for an icebreaker. Friendship is based off of the things that we love and that we have in common. And if you're willing to talk for hours about either an obscure or even a popular fandom, like Gloria and I got close because, oh my God, you like these books too? Like,
nobody likes Terry Pratchett or Douglas Adams. And so nobody ever gets my stupid references.
I remember in the chat where I made a Terry Pratchett reference, and all of a sudden the chat blew up, and I'm like, I need to talk to this person. But it's those little things that like we connect over what we love. And we have to be careful because, again, going back to what we were talking about in the last hour, people that are trying to take advantage of us will try to get us together over what we hate.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Versus, yes, I wish to discuss the life lessons of Mrs. Cosmopolite. Please let us discuss how you should always have a broom with you. It is very useful. So,
I have 3 friends that I have been friends with for like 20 years because they're the only people I know that have read all of Darkover like I have. No one has read Darkover. Most of you are like, what is this Darkover? It's fine. It's crazy. It's weird. If you feel like giving your life to it, look it up because it's oddly addictive and there's like 65 books. But fandom is a great way to make friends. It's one of the reasons why adults are pushed into being sports ball fans because we have walled sports ball off as this one thing that it is acceptable for adults to be fans of. But
I think
music is valid.
It's
Other-
useful because these kind of group things, whether it's a fandom or sports, you've got sort of a glossary of common terms that everybody knows within this group.
Yep.
So there's a way to communicate with each other with these shared metaphors and analogies and euphemisms. And so it's a little bit easier to communicate. Even neurotypicals need this. It's not just neurodivergent folks. So it does make it easier. It's like, look, if you've ever read a bunch of the Discworld books, you get a lot of my references, but like Tom and I also, literally just Tom and me, no one else in the house, okay? We make so many Heinlein references, particularly what is it? What's his
Lazarus
name?
Long.
Thank you. Especially the Lazarus Long part of the books. But we also make a lot of Howard Trust discussions. And so if you know these references, then you can jump in. And that's one of the reasons why, since most people are not familiar with this science fiction author anymore, we don't make these references hardly at all out in public because we don't wish people to feel excluded. So inside the house, though, it's all Heinlein, Pratchett, and Douglas Adams all the time. You know, with a few other authors thrown in for good measure that we share.
Who was it that did Sordid Lives?
Oh, God. I knew it a minute ago. Something... Dale?
My brain has gone to complete and perfect zen.
Like,
If
he's
I
got
can
such
just-
an interesting name that turns out not to actually be his.
I'm so close to Satori right now. Come on, enlightenment.
But I mean, but also
Dale Shores. It's
Dale
like,
Shore- yeah.
it's not Dale Shoresy.
But I mean, but also like,
Trick me into saying a string of bad words there.
yep.
Speaking
But-
of Letterkenny, again, a set of glossary terms, because we do share this in common. Actually, it's something that I kind of bonded with Brian over early in the Don't Starve Together days. Was we would like play the game and talk about Letterkenny a bunch.
Ferda.
But also, like, if you don't have the ability to go to the same place over and over to build up the rapport, this is where fandom shirts and, you know, also even more multi-use buttons come in handy, so you can signal to others your fandom, so they can instantly, if they like that fandom, respond to you in kind, and you can quickly build up a friendship and a rapport. But you have to be able to willing to put out, yeah, this is my fandom. These are the ones I really like. And I say this with love. But yes, your fandom can be your sexuality and romantic style as you are learning. Because if you are wearing, you know, your demi flag and the other flags on it, that's a fandom. That's it. This is part of my personality. I accept.
Fandom.
What'd you say, Charlie?
everything is a fandom. Like
Yep.
we need to be honest about this.
Yep.
Like
Mhm.
when you're talking about your favorite pantheon, that those are the gods that you're a fan of. Like this is what everything is a fandom.
Oh God, I remember one of Glory's ex-bosses, like just he would talk all day about the DC Pantheon. Like if you wanted to make friends with him, that's all you had to do was mention DC Pantheon and he could just take the conversation himself and go on.
Yeah, he really would. Like I just like so on days where I didn't really want to work and he came into my office, I'd mentioned something that Tom had said in the last month or two about DC. Or I'd seen a headline and say, "What do you think of that?" And just let him go. And I would rather listen to him go on about DC rather than have to work. And that is what I did. Just get that engine going so I could just have some time off.
I mean, that is what World War II and the Civil War, or whichever
Yeah.
type of Civil War you choose, or meat smoking. I mean, really, there's definitely some Civil War-like behavior among people who smoke in barbecue meats over which is the right way to do things.
Speaking
Yeah.
of, if you check the thermometer, Tom, I'm smelling the smoker.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
These are all things we like to talk about and converse, and that's why, yeah, wearing your particular flags of what kind of romantic feelings you have that you've learned about yourself is a conversation starter, because a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm just learning this about myself. What have you learned about this type of personality? The same for Myers-Briggs, and let's be honest,
Same boss was in a Myers-Briggs.
yeah, and but it's the same type of fandom and conversation as astrology.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you enjoy thinking and talking about, and that's all you're looking for to build friendships.
And this is where that improv skill really comes in handy, because I have a friend who is so into Battlestar Galactica, it is almost painful to me, because I mean, like their whole, like our house has a lot of Star Wars stuff in it and other fandoms, but like, oh my goodness, like so into Battlestar Galactica, and I am not a fan of this, but I'm a fan of a lot of galactic military sci-fi. So when she starts talking about this thing or that thing from Battlestar Galactica, I am familiar with the other fandoms that I do participate in that she knows, and I can relate and continue the conversation, even though I may not remember all of the details of that episode of Galactica or all of the weird miniseries that Sci-Fi Channel did in the in the post years and whatnot, right? I can still engage in the conversation because of our shared interest in military sci-fi. We can still have this conversation. She can get the enjoyment of telling me all the things about Cylon culture that she is fascinated by. And our relationship can grow, because if I would just step in and be like, well, I'm not a big fan of this. No. Well, I just said a no. I did not say a yes and the conversation stops. Now, that's not saying that you have to participate in every conversation that you don't care about the subject for, but if you can find a shared into the conversation, it really helps things go along. There are a lot of, I do this with a lot of my friends that are really into music, where I may not be in the same bands as they are, but we're very often into the same genres. So while I may not be a big fan of this band or that band, unless it's Rammstein or Radiohead, I generally don't get really opinionated about it, and can talk about the nuances of the genre with them, and we can still continue the conversation without it having to derail because, I don't listen to them. And that improv skill of being able to learn when and how to throw oh yes, and have you to keep the conversation going, because conversation is a game of hot potato.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
When they toss it at you, you have the option of either throwing it away or tossing it back, and that's the yes and. You need to find those ways that, like I said with the Battlestar Galactica friend, it's so easy. Would be so easy to just toss that out the window because I don't know who this character is because you're down in like the G level characters, like you've got into the deep lore, right? And sometimes, and it's become really fun between us because she's not a big Star Wars fan. Where I will bring up like a G tier Star Wars character that the character they're talking about reminds me of, and we're learning about each other's fandoms and keeping the conversation going, even though we're not really talking about the same specific fandom. We're just keeping the conversation going and having fun with it. So at the end of the day, that fun part is the point.
That is what brings friends back.
Yeah.
To start with, is that you can have fun together. And it's only after you know you can have fun together that you can start working and building more serious relationships.
Yep.
That's why people, have always had horror stories about first dates when the date just starts unloading all of this serious stuff in their life. And it's I don't know you that well. Why is this the stuff you want to talk about? What is the stuff you're not telling me then? Because it's like, no, first you build a rapport, you build the fun, the friend, that you can have fun together, that you enjoy each other's company. Because if you're not enjoying each other's company, why are you around each other?
Mm-hmm.
Unless it's just like, misery is my life goal. It is what I look for and yearn.
Because like I was saying earlier, play is that way that we feel out relationships. Like, is it safe here? Like, if you're going to be cheating at every game of cards we play, or whatever it is, like you're literally deceiving me in this game. How am I supposed to trust you with anything else? It's those because it's lesser stakes. Like you cheat in a game of gin rummy, I didn't lose anything, right? It's just it's more likely you're not playing for money. But if you're playing a low stakes game, you can have that risk in there without having a lot of harm to you if the risk isn't worth it. And that's where bringing this play in is so important, is you're learning what the limits are. Like, are you the kind of person that will be honest with me? Are you the kind of person that will play fair? Are you the kind of person that will just ignore every word that's coming out of my mouth so that you can just have the audience that you're looking for?
Oh, and believe me, there is no greater test than playing board games, or even better, tabletop role-playing games with others to find out what is their real core character.
Oh, yeah. You're going to find out if they got sociopathic or psychopathic tendencies.
And you can always find that one friend who thinks that they're a ladies' man and they have no game, because they're always the one that's like, I'm going to the brothel. And you're like, oh God, this is going to be deliciously fun, and I'm going to do terrible things to you.
I mean, versus the fire starter.
Oh, man.
There's always one you cannot leave alone with any form of fire.
Uh-huh.
Usually they play the wizard, so they've got it on hand.
You're not wrong.
But yeah, that's why we play these games, is it actually does tell you a lot about them. Like, you really want to find out if someone's red flags? Play games with them where there are no real stakes. If they put stakes in there, that already tells you a lot.
Why is somebody cheating at Candyland? And you're a grown adult. What is going on in your life that this is okay to you? Why are you cheating at Candyland?
Of all the games, White Island.
Oh, God, you would not believe just the dregs of society. Excuse me.
No, it's when you're cheating at Candyland with kids.
Oh yeah.
I cheat at Candyland by letting kids win.
No, we're not talking about that.
No. When
Everybody lets kids win.
Yeah. But when you're especially when you're one of the parents of one of the kids playing Candyland and you are cheating to win.
Like,
unless you've lost 10 games in a row, that is the only time you as the adult can cheat to win.
I'm just saying, all you need to know about my one brother-in-law is that no one is allowed to play a trivia game in the house if I am there. Because no one is allowed to play trivia games with me.
Tom, you need to check the smoker. I've messaged already. I smell burning. That's why I'm coughing.
Right. Okay.
Don't burn the meat.
That really should be a song. Don't burn the meat. Don't burn the meat, baby. Burn the meat. Don't burn the meat down. But yeah, low stakes interactions are one of the best ways to meet people, and why I am not a fan of all of these like speed dating groups, because a speed date is the exact opposite of low stakes. Because people come to these things with such high expectations of, here's where I'm going to meet the person that I'm going to either date or be with for the rest of my life or spend significant. That's too high stakes for the first time you're meeting someone. It's too much. Oh, CB, that's awesome. That's really cool. I don't think I said it on stream, but the Spences sent me a box of Gender Euphoria the other day, and I can't wait to be Ida the Owl Lady in public.
Very nice.
I was so looking forward to it. And if anybody wants to see a picture of me feeling good about myself, in my general chat in my Discord is a picture of me wearing the insane outfit that they sent.
I mean, like, I've literally forged friendships over baking. Like, there's any number of ways to meet people and to develop friendships. Once you get somebody who's friendly toward you, that's where the compassion is very useful, and just listening.
I met Kat because of fan fiction. I was working on doing anything about fan fiction, and somebody was like, "Have you heard of Kat Leo?" And I'm like, "Who is this Kat Leo?" And they're like, "Oh, she's streaming right now." And I just hopped into the chat, and she threw a "Hey, anybody wants to be on stream with me?" link into the chat, and that's how we started talking. Was, "Hey, so you fan fiction too? Let's talk." But to me, that's where the vulnerability can be swept away a little bit, Spence, is in all of these initial interactions that I'm talking about. These are low stakes interactions. Like, I'm not walking into this talking about, oh, here is all of this really oddly personal / fiction that I wrote when I was a teenager in the fan fiction discussion, right? It starts off with, oh, how do you choose the characters that you like to write about? What are your opinions about original characters in stories? You start with the basics. It's very low risk when you're first feeling out a relationship. And so that hopefully wouldn't make you feel as vulnerable when you're interacting with someone. Because, like,
Yeah, I was like, what is the vulnerability in making friends? Like, you're like, oh, you like baking? I do too. Or I don't bake, but I love eating baked goods. Like, what is the vulnerability there?
well, I get this question because I know people might think that I'm much more of an open book than I really am. Like, hi, my name is Charlie, and I play an extrovert on the internet. Like, I am very quiet and not as talky in most of my life. And I get this, like, being concerned about sharing certain things or being hurt by people, because, dear God, sometimes people are the worst. But this is where, for me, like, various fandoms are such a good way in. I have a friend that I have been friends with for probably 15, 16 years now, all because he and another friend were goofing off, and he started chanting the words loudly in public to Wasted Youth by Jim Steinman. And I happened to be walking by when this happened, and I stopped and joined in. And the two of us, in the middle of a hotel lobby, at the top of our lungs, recited the very not safe for work lyrics to Wasted Youth by Jim Steinman, which involves trying to off people with a guitar and maybe having relations with one. Like, it is a weird song. And we just went through the lyrics in unison to each other, laughed our butts off, and just started talking. Because he was surprised that I was a big Jim Steinman fan too. And it's very important because a lot of people know his music through Meatloaf. And I am not a Meatloaf fan, but I love Jim Steinman's work. Especially the stuff he did with Bonnie Tyler and the stuff that he did with the Sisters of Mercy. Like, Jim Steinman is a messed up, overly operatic songwriter. But that's how we met. It was just this weird coincidence of moments. And we joke around sometimes, like, imagine if he hadn't just decided to do that at that particular moment in time. We might have just passed each other and never gotten to know each other.
True. All right. Good point. Let's specifically talk about rejection sensitive dysphoria and making friends. Okay. This we could talk about. So, one of the things I have learned as an adult is when making friends, you have to go a lot slower with adults than children go with each other, or even that you as an adult can go with a young person. You've got to go a lot slower. And essentially, it goes like this. Let us say that you contact them and you're like, hey, when you have a conversation. Okay. When you're developing relationships, friendships with an adult, you have to wait for them to contact you next time. Like, essentially, you bounce the ball to them. They have the ball. You cannot bounce the ball to them until they bounce the ball back to you. I know it is nerve-wracking and it is frustrating as hell. I absolutely understand that. But that is what is required. Essentially, they have to keep opting back in to further developing this relationship. Otherwise, maybe they don't want this relationship, or they don't have room on their plate for this relationship, and you're running the risk of getting rejected if you keep pursuing this without them bouncing the ball back to you. So every time you bounce the ball to them, you have to wait for them to bounce the ball back to you. And this may take months each time while you wait for the ball to bounce back to you, where they contact you and say, hey, how are you doing? I was thinking of you, or here's this meme. If they send you a meme, then you can, like, message them again, like, hey, how are you? How's it been? Haven't heard from you. What's up with you? You want to get together? I'm going to go do something? And if they're like, sure, let's do something cool, but then they have to contact you next time, because when they bounce the ball to you, you bounce the ball back to them. And that is what is required in adult relationships, is you've got to go slow. Even though you just want to fully opt in. Here's all my cards. I absolutely like you. What can we do to make this be a friendship? Adults are a pain in the butt.
Preach.
This is why I prefer teaching children. They're just so much nicer to spend time with, honestly. I know children are little psychopaths that would rather murder people than actually learn. I know that. I absolutely know that about children. And yet they're still more fun to hang out with than adults. It is one of the sad facts of life that I can't, like, build an entire social network with children. It's not cool. And also they have child problems, like can't drive and can't open a bank account, and they keep forgetting to pay rent. No, I'm kidding.
Keep pointing out how old you are. I was waiting for the look.
It's like,
I always say things for the look. You know this, right?
No child has ever pointed out that I'm so old. They always think I'm like, oh, didn't you just graduate high school this week? It's like, child, no. But that they have to like you enough to want to contact you again. And then you return the salvo the next time after a couple days or whatever. Like, you look at their pattern of contact and you mimic it, because that is what they can handle. They are doing the behavior that they themselves can handle. So if they only contact you every 4 months, don't bounce the ball for 4 months. You've got to wait, because that is the amount of contact they can handle in their life. So you bounce the ball back in kind. And if they keep bouncing the ball, even if it is only every couple months, it means that they do like spending time with you. It just may mean also that their life is very full. And you need to respect that of this is the amount of time. So if they bounce the ball back every 3 days, then you can bounce the ball back every 3 days. But if they don't bounce the ball back for 2-3 months at a time or a year, that is how long you also need to mimic their behavior, because that is all they've got. That's the bucket. It's full already.
Also, take into account your bucket and what you can handle. If they do it every 3 days, but you can't do it every 3 days, that's okay too.
Yep.
And if they respect that, even better. So, again, that is definitely part of what I recommend. If you've had a lot of bad experiences in the past trying to establish friendships, or even trying to maintain friendships, is with adult ones, you have to wait for them to bounce the ball back to you. And then you mimic the amount of time since the last time. The nice thing about text messages, you can literally go back in your text chat history and look how long it is between each time they contact you. And you can actually figure out, okay, about once a month they contact me or whatever. And then you mimic that behavior. With people with ADHD, I can see where it's very difficult to pick up on that cue. Part of ADHD is we're kind of oblivious to cues, particularly cues that the cues that are the kind of cues we don't put out, we're kind of oblivious to when other people put out. And also, I would say, I know this, you're not going to like this. I'm going to say it. The rejection sensitive dysphoria. Here we go. You do need to assume everybody is your friend until they explicitly tell you they're not. I know that feels wrong. It feels absolutely inappropriate. Like, no, Glory. But with adults, they're not going to say, I really like you. We're best friends. They're just not. They're not going to say that. They're not going to say that till 30 years in. Usually you get that 3 to 6 years in, is my experience now. So instead, the best approach is you just assume they are your friend until they explicitly tell you, we are not friends. Stop contacting me. Because that's how adults work. It is a different set of signals from children. And again, that is partly why I like children. Because children will just lay the cards out on the table. It's nice. There's no question.
You have an air hockey table? We're best friends now.
You don't know, Charlie. I love air hockey so bad. God, Tom and I could do some real dangerous with like an unmanned air hockey table that's on. Like, Tom and I've literally had discussions. Is it possible to buy an air hockey table that works now that the company is gone? Like, this is the fantasy. Anyway.
Because my dad got me an air hockey table because his boss's kids went off to college, and his boss decided, to hell with all the kids stuff, I'm building a den, and was just like, throw that air hockey table out. And he's like, can I just have it? And he's like, I don't care, just make it not be here. And I got a free air hockey table, and was suddenly popular in a way that I did not like. And neither did our neighbors, who had to listen to air hockey through the apartment walls.
Different lot number? Cat's yarn. Different lot number.
I don't know
Can't
if
put
I'm
that-
going to be able to go around one more time.
Ah, okay.
That's a big square.
Babies don't notice. It's fine.
And it's my last skein.
But yeah, you just go slow.
Mm-hmm.
What was it that, like, from that movie Hitch, you can only go 90%. You can never go beyond the 90% to the other person. They have to go a minimum of 10%. And really, they need to feel like it's 30%. They have to keep opting back in to this relationship, even at the very beginning. And if you're like, wow, it has been a long time since they have opted back in. Are they busy or they don't like me? You can send out a just hi, little, like you could send a meme or something, or one, hey, how's your week going, or something. And if they don't respond, move on. It's fine. It probably wasn't you anyway. They're probably just, their plate is absolutely full and they're having a mental breakdown. It's fine.
My friend Em, who's as busy as I am, every now and then will just send me a message that says, "Are you dead yet? I somehow survived." And we have good laugh and then talk for a little bit and then get lost back in our lives of insanity.
So that is what I recommend. I understand rejection sensitive dysphoria. I have certainly experienced some of that as well. And in functional relationships, you're not going to experience it that often.
Eva has a really good
Dysfunctional.
point.
In dysfunctional relationships, such as a lot of corporate work experience type, you will experience it. Be sure to reach out using their preferred contact method, not your own, if it's to see if they have faded away. Yes, I agree. Again, you're like, try to mirror. You're mirroring. Mirror the way they bounce the ball to you. Mirror on what platform, whatever.
And they too may also have rejection dysphoria and problems, but not what to say. Like, no, this friendship isn't working. So yeah, if they don't respond, let it go.
I used to have a friend who she would be in my life. We'd contact regular until I gave her a gift, and then she'd disappear for literally years at a time. So I learned to stop giving her gifts. And eventually, a few years after that, after she stopped disappearing because I stopped giving her gifts, I told her about it. And she agreed, yeah, that's a good idea. Don't give me things. Like, okay.
Yeah. Another good lesson to learn about friendships: never lend a friend money you are not willing to gift them. And also, just know if you lend someone money or gift them money, there's a good chance you're not going to see them again.
It's a very good way to get rid of people. It's just on the money.
Or tools.
Or tools.
Never lend someone anything that you aren't willing to just give them straight out, and then just go ahead and give them the thing. Tell them, here, it's yours now. Because if you value that friendship, lending people stuff is a great way to get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just give it or don't, but don't lend.
I feel like that pretty much is, a cat friend.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you see a friend in need, it's you offer. But you do want to find out, like, is this something they need? And part of the reason people disappear is actually out of guilt and a inequality of your friendship, and they're not sure how to handle this. I've been on both sides of this, and it is just part of being human.
Mm-hmm. I had somebody I considered a friend, but he only liked taking on people as projects, not as friends. And I told him I didn't want to be a project that he fixes. I just wanted to be a friend. He didn't want that. And that's the end of that relationship. He didn't want a friend. He wanted projects. I didn't want to be a project.
I'd also realize when a friend of yours tricks you into having a banana and Pepsi, it's because they love you and not because you were a science experiment.
I think it's 50-50. They love that you're a science experiment.
A little bit.
And then you're a willing one at this point.
I mean, we experimented on ourselves first.
It's not like we told you to blend them together and drink it.
Yeah, we did not. That's not our advice.
I kind of
What
want
was
to
your own
put it in a
decision?
blender and see what happens. Like, I think there might be an explosion. Like, this might be how we actually solve cold fusion. Just put them in a blender together, and as long as the blender has enough torque, we may be able to make higher elements.
I believe that's what the song on
I
Holy
just figured.
about.
I just figured that your body, your stomach feels threatened when you combine the two. Because remember, your stomach can also taste.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we will make you feel better if you just promise not to eat this again.
Please don't do this again.
It's
No.
a détente.
Basically, it's a hostage situation.
Yep.
A digestive détente. I like that.
I know.
But I mean, like, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I feel like I'm in a mutually assured destruction phase. Like, it's very Cold War over here.
I don't know what I was going to say. Give me a sec.
I win.
Playing chicken with your stomach.
Okay, I remember now. All right, here it is. Ultimately, this is what I'm going to say to everybody, not just neurodivergent people, not just people with ADHD, and not just people with rejection sensitive dysphoria. Here it goes. If I've learned one thing from romance novels, it is this. If you are not open to a new relationship, you are guaranteed to be wasting your time.
Yep.
You have to be open. So if you are not willing to risk rejection, even if maybe you're not that into it anyway, so it's not going to hurt that much, you're not going to get it. You've got to be open and flexible in order to establish any kind of new relationship. This is just the truth of it. I know it hurts. I know it's scary. I know it's a lot of uncertainty. And as a human being, part of being a human means you need to get comfortable with uncertainty. But if you are looking for new relationships to establish, you are going to have to accept that you have got to be willing to be more open and flexible in order to establish new relationships. This is just the nature of human beings. I did not make these rules, but these are the rules. It doesn't matter what kind of relationship you're looking to establish. It could be romantic. It could be friendship. It could be sexual. It could be academic, some sort of like educational mentorship. But all relationships between humans require openness and flexibility of mind. They don't all require a lot of time They don't all require a lot of interaction, but they all actually require openness and flexibility. This is it. So you need to keep that in mind before you try to, go looking to establish new relationships. Am I feeling open, or do I need to work on that first? Am I open to new experiences? Am I open to new ideas? Am I open to knowing new people? Because if the answer is no, what are you doing with your time and energy? It will not be to establish new relationships. I'm going to tell you that right now. So you cannot develop and establish found family if you are not open and flexible of mind. That's it. I've told that to children. Let me tell you, children really look like mind blown when I explain that you've got to feel open. So what does that mean? Maybe you need to get yourself to a place in your life, in your thoughts, where you feel open. So maybe that means you need more sleep, or you need to eat more vegetables so you actually feel better, or you need more free time. Whatever it is, you'll know. Intuitively, more than likely, you will have some kind of inkling of what you need to feel more open and more mentally flexible. But if you're giving people grumpy curmudgeon vibes, that is not openness or flexibility.
Which is why grandma vibes are different.
Right? Part of why you need both openness and flexibility to establish and maintain relationships is because in a conversation, these are the two things you need. You need to be open to what they are saying and flexible in thought to hear new ideas. Like, this is literally what's required to have useful conversations with people. If you are not willing or able to do this, I'm telling you right now, it's not a good time to establish or try to establish new relationships.
And
Maybe it's time to practice with the water bottle.
Yep. Time to practice those water bottle meditations.
And that's one of the reasons why so many people feel like we're like in this state of, societal collapse and whatnot, because they're not looking at the economy and how it's treating people or anything like that. It's that we have adopted a social model that says if you don't agree with me 100% on everything, we can have no conversation whatsoever at all. And that you are, by definition, a bad person. And I'm not saying that there aren't bad people out there. I'm not. But what I'm saying is there's a difference between being a liberal or conservative and being completely intolerant of the other position. A lot of what I'm seeing people defining their own personal politics and societal expectations about is they're simply against whatever the other team is for, believing that means that they are actually for something, which is not the case. You have to find yourself as just being against what other people are for, and then saying, well, I can't talk to them. They don't want to listen to me telling them that everything that they believe is wrong. Duh.
Can't imagine.
I can't imagine why that would be the case.
Versus if you're disagreeing on this stuff, you talk about something else like Letterkenny. And if they don't like Letterkenny, well, there's not worth having a conversation with them.
I mean, you're not wrong, but
Let's say you laugh because you know I'm right.
But yeah, I guess that's ultimately what it is if you have room in your life for more people. If it's a lonely life, if it's a lonely world, your own personal world, then there's definitely room for more people of equality. But if you're not open and flexible, nobody's going to actually be able to find a place in your life, in your world. So it is something you need to think about and work on if it's something you want, but you don't feel open or flexible.
And the one big thing that I would add on to this is if you are feeling lonely, ask in what way. What is it that is at the heart of that? Because I know for me, there was a period of my life where my life was overly filled with people and I still felt lonely. And it wasn't because no one was engaging in conversation with me. It wasn't because I was being ignored. It was because there were certain topics and things that were near and dear to my heart that I needed to express to another human being. And I didn't have a community that I could have those conversations with. And that's what was actually making me feel lonely, is I needed people for that to be engaged in that specific sort of way. And that can be a hard thing to tease out sometimes, but it's important to realize, like, we're not all going to be into all of the same fandoms. We're not going to all be into all of the same topics of conversation. And sometimes when you're feeling lonely, it's because maybe you really want to talk about Doctor Who and all of your friends are Star Wars fans. And you're feeling lonely because you have all this stuff pent up inside of you that you want to talk about and don't have somebody to talk about that thing with you. And that could be maybe a philosophical thing. Maybe you're, a parent that doesn't have a lot of other parents in their lives, right? There could be any number of things that you're not fulfilled in your relationships for that are making you feel lonely. So being able to tease that out will make it a lot easier for you to go out and make friends because you know the kinds of friends you're looking for. I'm specifically looking for people that are into discussing this thing or doing this thing. Like, if you want new friends to go hiking with, I have bad knees and a bad back, and I kind of am allergic to everything in nature. I am not your go hiking friend.
Are we hiking with a purpose? I don't walk without purpose. And do not tell me you need fresh air. That's not a purpose.
You can just sit outside to get that.
Right?
You don't have to go to a new location. That sounds like willing kidnapping.
No, if you
come with me to the second location.
Right? No, that's like you get a Wade. No.
How next week got me to go on a walk. Well, she's like, so there's this person that has like a hobby farm on the farther down the trail. She's like, will you walk with me to go look at the animals? I'm like, I will walk for that purpose.
Right? Somebody's got me to go on a trail, but there's a bird nest on this trail. I would love to show it to you. You want to come see it? And I was like, not really. And then they went and they took a picture of it. And then they came back and showed me a picture and you want to go see it? And I'm like, yeah. And that was how they got me to go walk. It had eggs in it.
Ooh.
Yeah, I want to go look at it. It had really cool looking eggs. So, as I said, think about it. You can find people.
Yep.
Especially if you're open and flexible. Like, I used to want to see people in real life that I could have all sorts of fun and interesting discussions, particularly about writing. And it turns out South Mississippi is devoid of that.
Yeah.
And yeah, seriously, I'm lucky they're illiterate at all. I said it.
It's truly the opposite of Oxford.
Yeah. Yeah, the northern part of the state. Oh, everybody's a writer and everybody loves to read up there. Which is ironic, considering Houston, Mississippi is up in North Mississippi. And if you knew what I know about Houston, Mississippi, you would say, well, that's a surprise. Yes. Houston, Mississippi is the kind of place I drive around. So, nevertheless, I used to want, I was and then I gave up. It's there's nobody around here. There's nobody who's writing, da-da-da-da-da. And then years later, technology caught up with my needs. And enough people got high-speed internet And then this technology of video chatting where I did not have to use Skype. Burning hell, Skype. So it just took a little time for technology to catch up with my needs. But here we are. Because I don't need them in real life. It is nice to see your faces sometimes, though. So, again,
One day we
being
will meet in
flexible.
person. One day we will meet in person.
One day.
And you will feed me.
Oh, yes. I will feed you no
Oh, you
onion.
have no idea. Like, you will have so many stomach pains. Like,
Like so many people, I'm gonna be like, I get to be fed.
Yeah, your tummy will just be like, no more food. And you're like, oh, but there's always room for dessert.
one day you will show up at the house and Brian will be like, okay, I heard you were coming and I figured out these 20 foods that I'm pretty sure you loved when you could eat onions that no longer have onions in them, but you will never know because I have found the way. Like, yeah, your stomach will be happy and sad and then happy and then kind of grumbly and then happy and like, do you hate me? And then just resigned. This is my life now.
We need to go walk to help move things through the system so we can put more food in.
Yes, I remember having friends teach you that of the way, like older friends, like people in their 50s teach me the way you eat more food is you go for a little walk between courses so you have more room. I'm like, oh, is that what after dinner walks are for? And they're like, yeah, it's to make room for dessert. Yes. It's literally what it's for.
I know what you're saying, Carrie. I have 2 people in town. They actually can relate to the kind of being what I am.
Mm-hmm. So, does anyone have any final thoughts? Any final thoughts that they haven't already said?
I'm almost done with this blanket.
Cool.
Have fun, be open. Make sure to show your fandoms so people know what to talk to you about.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps if you know what your own fandoms are.
Yeah.
That you would love to talk to anyone about.
I've said it a lot and we've talked about it a lot, but learn improv. Like, learn improv. If you're wanting to have good, fun relationships, like, you don't have to become like the best comedian. You don't even have to do it to become a comedian. Just learn when it is appropriate to yes and situations and how to keep it going and how to keep. That's how nights get fun. That's how everything, all the magic happens. And it's such a simple thing that it sounds like it's a lie. But it really, if you're the one over in the corner always saying no, maybe this isn't the friend group for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, keep
Like,
trying. You'll find it.
And that's not saying that it's a you problem. It's just this may not be, like, you may have jived with them when you were younger and now your interests have changed. That's fine.
Like, you want to find the place where you belong just as you are.
Yep.
But again, I'm still going to encourage everybody to keep working on compassion.
Yep.
Because it's a very useful skill and it will help in lots of tiny, tiny little ways. Help the world be better.
Can I swear?
Yes, what you got to drop.
Here's your lettuce. Don't be a dick.
Yes. Just like the guinea pig. You can still.
Sure.
So thank you all so much for being here and hanging out with us. We love it. We love to see y'all. We are celebrating 20,000 views on this channel, which is pretty awesome.
Woo!
Yes. Thank you so much, as well as all our new subscribers. Thank you so much. We're thrilled to have you here. And we hope to see you again. We know that there's also some watching on the replay. And we do hope that if you have comments, put them in the comments. Let us know what you think. What will next week be? What we talk about? I have no flipping clue. Do you remember, Tom?
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what the Wednesday Twitch stream
Yeah,
is.
that's it. It's like we usually figure it out by Wednesday before our Twitch stream at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So do join us on Twitch. We also do writing sprints during that. And, of course, Coffee Bunny on Thursdays at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time. And then Self-Care Saturday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, where we do sprints on Twitch. We do all sorts of writing sprints. So definitely come and see us over there. It's the same name on Twitch. We'd love to have you. And I shall wave you all off into the sunset.
Bye.
Goodbye. See you next time. We will be hanging out in the Discord voice chat in the clubhouse after this at, 7 p.m. my time, so 8 p.m. Eastern. So in about 20 minutes. So if you'd like to join us there, everybody is welcome to join us. Everybody. If you are not a member of our Discord server, Unicorn Council Discord server, there is a link in the doobly below in my link tree. We'd love to see you there. Bye-bye, everybody.